Topic 1. Should charter schools have any future at all in the American educational landscape? 45 minutes left on the clock. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
If you really like inequality and you want to extend inequality, if you really like inequality, you want to extend inequality, yeah, fucking keep charter schools.
Do you
Hell
even
yeah,
know
dude.
what a charter school is? What's
Yeah,
a
I
charter
absolutely
school?
do. You realize that I'm like before you start beaming on with this American bullshit, you realize education is literally my field of study, right?
So what's the difference between a charter school and any other school?
A charter school is a private school that's funded publicly generally, right? So these are the ones that people have school vouchers they can take to. Yeah? Are we all
point, because I disagree fundamentally with what Kyo-san said.
Yeah, okay, rather than emoting at each other here, let's like make our
Okay, my argument specifically is right now there is a distinction between the elites and the public people. And while you are correct, Kyo-san, that private schools in and of itself is a distinctive between the poor people and the upper middle class people, charter schools are the gap between private schools and public schools. I actually have data right now that supports the idea, and they especially implemented this in New York. That charter schools in New York improved public schools in New York.
Okay.
You need to give a citation on that.
What happens to kids? Do you think that the only barrier to education is cost? No. Right? So there are other costs that involve student education outside of just covering the costs, right? You have students' ability to travel, you have parents' ability to take them, you have the freedom of the parents, you have I'm spacing out right now because I'm a little bit caffeinated.
Why would you
Please let me finish making my argument. What happens when you have charter schools? When you have charter schools is you have a fuck ton of parents who pull their kids out of the bad schools, which are usually schools in like black neighborhoods, right? Because they've been severely historically underfunded, so they continue to be underfunded. They take their kids out and they put them in the other schools, right? Because they're parents that have the ability to travel, they have the ability to take their kids to these schools, take them long distances, or the kids to be those long distances. And then these other kids who are stuck in these schools for those reasons, right? Then are left in worse schools because they get left with shittier funding. You just create more unequal schools because those other schools only have certain slots. You can't just have like one big fucking massive super university. You're going to have winners and losers, especially in charter schools with school vouchers.
You still have
Great. One at a time. All right. Look, we'll give Dan a try, then Mad Latin, raise your hand, Omni, then Ninetales. All right, we'll jump out after that. Go ahead.
Yeah, Kiyo-san, I don't think you have the best idea of what of the entire issue of charter schools will be. As we could look at to other examples in the United States, specifically. I mean, we could talk about charter schools in the university, but you're just an Australian guy, so I mean. I don't exactly have.
I know that anytime someone brings up my nationality when I'm talking about an issue, I'm fucking right. Okay? The second anyone does it, you would know it just because you're Australian. This should be embarrassing for you. This should be embarrassing for you. This should be embarrassing. An Australian is schooling you on your own fucking topics on school.
All right.
Why would you want to instate an authoritarian type system that pushes people?
Yeah, Dan, finish your point. Excuse me.
Yeah, we could look in places like New Orleans, where it has almost pretty much all the schools there, or at least publicly funded, are now charter schools. Anyone like Kiyo-san says, like, oh, this is a middle gap to bring people there. How could you do that when every school now is a charter school, and it will start suffering the same disadvantages on certain social economic areas and poor areas to richer areas? That's all I'm gonna. That's what I want to say about that.
Well, the thing is
thank God.
Right now, there's a problem.
Just saying that there are things are a way, that doesn't mean that's the way they should be, to be clear, right? We're talking about a good policy to solve problems.
Just because public schools are bad right now doesn't mean we leave kids to rot in those poor public schools. Right now, there's a problem in the United States right now between elitism, and private schools are a mechanism to enforce elitism in our society.
Why do you think other countries have perfectly? Why do other countries have perfectly fine public education to the point they don't need to even discuss this shit? And the US has to be like, oh, we've got to solve it by giving private people more money somehow. Like, no, fuck off. Education isn't something like that. Education is something inelastic. It's just something you just like solve by throwing fucking money at or pushing to private interests. Like other schools, other countries have have public funding education. Just have public education that fucking works.
Let's go
You
to
don't
Matt
need to do
Latin.
this shit.
We're going to Matt Latin, Omni, and then Ninetales.
So I think like charter schools could bridge a gap and make public schooling work better. The thing is, you're saying that folks who are poor are going to be left to rot in these underfunded schools, but I don't think school funding is entirely attached to just population of school. If it was, there wouldn't be such a thing as an overcrowded school that is underfunded, right? So it's not directly population; it has something to do with like scores and some other stuff. But if people are leaving those schools that are overcrowded and underfunded, that means that you've got more funding for the folks who are left over, right? So I don't think it's entirely a situation where it's bad that folks who can leave a school that's struggling is entirely horrible. I mean, that's just my 2 cents. I feel like that point isn't.
So this whole premise here is faulty, Kyo-san. And I want to ask you a question real quick. So what is the difference to the public school versus a person who goes to a private school versus a person who goes to a charter school in regards to the public school's funding?
What do you mean? Like, you talking about like the nuances of like how these things, how they had any difference in like funding?
Yeah, if a parent chooses to send their kid to a private school versus a parent that chooses to send their kid to a charter school, what is there any difference on the effect that would have on the public school that they live in?
I mean, public schools are usually a lot of funding, both from like there's going to be like wide and broad, right? So like if I miss like some specific tax nuance, because I've had this legit discussion before on Prime's channel with someone who repeatedly brought up the fact that even though I'd covered the fact that I knew the middle thing, they kept bringing up the fact that when I opened the simplifier, I sort of made clear, right, that there are other ways to fund it. But usually like public schools are funded a lot in part by like district funding. There is obviously like federal level funding and a couple of other things.
And that's allocated
and student allotment usually, right?
Okay, right. So the net effect on a parent sending their child to a private school that they pay for, and the net effect on the same child going to a charter school on that public school is the same. So there's no difference between what the school is missing out on. All they're doing.
Speaking order doesn't matter anymore. I'm just going to take my turn. I actually am. I'm okay with charter schools, but what we need to do is reform them properly. They need massive reforms. First of all, they're a huge tax money sink. They just get like a shell corporation or foundation to run them, and then all that taxpayer money just goes to shit. And it's really hard to track once you have one of these. What do they call it? It's not an authenticator thing. But yeah, it's I'm just going to call it an officiator. Close. But yeah, we definitely need to do a better job keeping track of this and not let these things run under free market capitalism.
Yeah. Look, I mean, the thing is,
capitalism is bad. So I want to address Ninetales directly about what you just said. Most charter schools have requirements that they're required to meet still. They still have to pass the state tests that they take, just like public schools. I think that there's this misconception that charter schools are this like completely unregulated, like laissez-faire, just like people stealing out money. No, they actually have to meet standards. And I think that that's kind of like a faulty argument that you're making, Ninetales.
Well, it's not. It's definitely not. Okay, let me speak. Let me respond. Let me respond.
Yep, that was directed at Ninetales, so let her respond.
Yeah, there's plenty of data on this. I'll find some of it in my histories tab. They're just like way more tax money goes into these schools. That obviously takes away from other schools, and you don't get the same return on investment from it. So I'm going to look for that and send it to you.
Well, I think you do get the same return on investment. I think the return on investment is really good because what happens when you implement charter schools into urban areas is that the public schools do get better. Opposite to what Kyo-san says, the public schools actually improve when you implement a large charter school into that area. Can you explain that?
No, I can't because that doesn't even make sense.
Let me
finish.
Let
him finish.
So yeah. Unfortunately, what you said makes sense on the surface. Like if students are getting smarter, it should be a good thing. But the problem is that if we invested a fraction of that money that we're losing to charter schools into public schooling, the amount of benefits would be exponential. That's going to be a different article that I have to find.
That's not true. That's not true. Detroit already tried.
How do you know?
Can you please send the data, please?
Detroit, with a crumbling economy and crumbling job system, did it. Yeah, somehow because Detroit didn't make it work. No, it'll never work anywhere else. That's not a real argument.
So there's a pretty distinct study
okay.
show. Wait, I just want to just real quick. There's a distinct line that shows that throwing money at this specific problem doesn't actually have more positive outcomes. Money does not make as much difference as the left wants to make it sound. The per capita, per student funding does not affect it nearly as much. The majority of the reason why schools are failing right now is due to lack of parent participation more than anything else.
Okay, are you referring to like putting money into public schools? Or
Let's go to
Omni, give it a shot.
Okay, so here, the things that people are saying are largely not backed up by data. Charters generally result in large benefits to both students in neighboring schools and to students in those schools. For instance, there was a study by Cremata in 2014 that found that when a charter school enters a district, students in neighboring public schools experience a 32% increase in math test scores and a 48% increase in reading test scores. A study by Cortez in 2014 found that charters increased public school instructional spending by 5.9%. In terms of the claims about diverting money away from students, that's not true, given that charters generally get less money per student than public schools. So the amount of money per student actually increases rather than decreases. And if we just compare the result of charter school students to the result of public school students, charter school students generally do far better than public school students, even accounting for the places where even accounting for often having more selective kids. So Whitmer finds that charter schools have 5 times higher college success rates and much higher graduation rates than non-college schools. So these claims about charter schools being bad are just not backed up by the data.
I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying they need to be reformed. I'm saying that they need to be. You wait a second, Theo.
Wait, let me get this in.
How about I respond to that for once?
Wouldn't
you respond to everything?
Wouldn't this be an argument for better maintaining public schools instead of just putting charter schools in? Wouldn't this be an argument for actually investing in not just public schools, but how public schools function and how the curriculums are determined?
Okay,
because a lot of this can be due to the fact
that. Thank you. Left this out. Finish your point.
So what I'm trying to say is that a lot of the times charter schools will have better curriculums and have and thus increase these test scores. And so wouldn't this then just be an argument for why we should reform public schools instead of just doing charter schools? Like, why are we splitting money and splitting resources?
Because A, it's a waste of money.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, B, why do charter schools when just investing and reforming our current public schools would be a much simpler solution?
A, because they're still a waste of money. Okay, I was responding. You guys all love talking about over the
I think this is a
Holy crap, shut up. Nine Tails, finish your point, then cut sleeve.
Yeah, so regarding what you said about Whitmer's report, a lot of those findings just don't even make sense. Like, how does instructional spending in public schools actually go up if you waste tax money on charter schools? There's a limited budget for education. Charter schools don't increase that budget. So if you're going to tell me that spending goes up, you better damn well explain how.
Okay, cut sleeve.
The spending per student go.
Yeah, that's a different metric. That's an entirely different metric.
Yeah, and I'll let you talk, Omni, after this because you're based. But okay, so the specific problem that the leftist Al talks about does exist, and the solution does exist. But the solution is to do both. We can reform the public schools while implementing charter schools around the area. And I'd propose that charter school is a fundamental reform of the system of public schools, since it's been demonstrated that charter schools make public schools better. But that's not mutually exclusive. That's not mutually. Wait, I can send you the data if you disagree with it.
No,
but that's
I
not
have more data than you. God.
Well, wait, I have
way more data than you. I can make an argument right now.
Yeah. No.
New Orleans has the worst examples of this. I mean, I have an article from the New York that says that.
Naming articles and naming areas is not empirical data because it's not comparative or analyzes the causal.
Let's go to Cutsy.
So
Cutsy, did you finish your point?
Yeah, but the solutions aren't mutually exclusive. You can increase funding for public schools, and you can implement charter schools as a way of reforming the public schools. I yield.
By the way, I want to make my fucking point because I've been waiting here for 10 minutes. I said at the start this increases inequality, and I'm sorry I'm getting mad because everyone's over talking each other, no one's listening. Right? I look for 2 seconds. I specifically look up Detroit, and the first thing I fucking find is that people in Detroit can't choose the school they want to because the exact reason I lined out at the start of this conversation, that people who don't have the ability to travel, who are underprivileged, aren't able to make it to those charter schools. So of course those charter schools make the fucking higher, like, bigger numbers because they're taking the better students, right? Like, it's asinine. We're not talking about the lowest schools. The problem is the inequality increase. Of course these other schools are going to look good. Of course these average schools might look around better. But when you're talking about increasing inequality and you're shitting these bottom schools because you're forcing all the worst fucking statistics into one area to lump against others. So this one school looks like dog shit in comparison to every other school. Of course the mean goes up when you take all the best students out of the worst schools.
Yeah, exactly. And why would we do charter schools in tandem with reforming public schools when the whole goal is to improve public schools themselves? It doesn't make sense to me to split these resources and just consolidate these resources.
There is no magic bullet solution that would solve all problems in the public school. Charter schools have been shown time and time again to result in both significant improvements to the local public school and to result in better educational outcomes for the people who are going to those
What's the
public
methodology?
schools.
If you're just going to keep reading the study, when I already said, like, here's why there might be a problem with the way that they gathered the data. What's the methodology and why does it not compare to what I just exactly said?
Also, can you elaborate on the idea that there's nothing we can do to improve public schools? That's
he's saying there's no simple solution. But I think there's a coherent solution where we can better.
So what are charter schools figuring out?
And have a better curriculum for public schools.
So somehow charter schools have figured this out, but public schools can't do anything. That seems like total nonsense.
I don't think that's what they're saying.
That's what it ends up being. That's what it amounts to. Logic.
No, saying that charter schools.
I know logic is hard.
Stop, Dolphin, go ahead.
I know logic.
No one's saying that charter schools have figured it out and public schools haven't. The argument is that charter schools are able to handpick the students that come into them. Now on the idea that
argument.
It's actually not true, by the way.
Like one of the only differences is that charter schools get to like create criteria in which what students are allowed to come in, and they're allowed to deter students. There's actually public schools that do this too. I know in like the DC or the Baltimore area, the way they do their schooling is that you apply to the different public schools and you can, like, based on your like application criteria, you can get into different ones. I don't see the big deal about charter schools. I understand the issue with them like increasing inequality, but like right now our school system's so fucking bad that like maybe in the long term, like 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 years down the road, we should get rid of them. But right now it seems that like maybe like there's some benefit to like removing certain amounts of students away from school out of school population so that other schools get that like
Top Dolphin, I love you, but the first thing that like inequality is the biggest issue in the United States right now. The United States has Gini coefficients on the same level as fucking South Africa, right?
Yet again,
like it's yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought it was
other countries. I'm just going to point out something here. Other countries have normal fucking education systems. Then they just have public systems and they work fine.
Yeah, that's the point I'm getting across, is that we don't need any other system. We don't need private schools. We don't need charter schools. All we need is public schools. If we just focus on the infrastructure and how these schools function, then we can come to the solution for our education system. I'm not saying it's true.
Okay, before we forget any nuance at all.
Okay, don't worry, I'll mute you if you need me to do that for you. All right, so Matt Latin, go ahead.
So I think like this debate just comes down to 2 basic things, and I'm looking for data on this. The first thing we need to figure out is, are charter schools harming local public schools? We've got Kiyoson's hypothesis, or maybe theory, that folks who are entering charter schools are going to be the best students and we're going to make all the public schools look worse. And then we've got Omni posting things and suggesting that local public schools are improving as a result of charter schools. So we need to actually figure out which one of those 2.
These things are mutually
specifically, like I mentioned.
I'm not done. Fuck off.
These things aren't mutually exclusive.
I'm not done. We'll talk about it. It's fine. You can ask me questions after I'm done. And yeah, I understand that's not mutually exclusive. I just want statistics on like what the relationship is, right? Like how often does this happen? Because it's not systemic necessarily. It could be just situational, right? The second thing I want to figure out is it impossible to improve public schools while charter schools exist? For some reason, there's like this idea that if charter schools exist, it's impossible for us to pour funding to public schools and make them all bright and shiny and stuff. And I don't necessarily believe that. I think it's entirely possible to have your charter schools on the side existing or whatever, and then you still work on making the public schools better. The problem that we have, I think, is the lack of political will to make the public schools better, I don't want to just blame charter schools and use them as a scapegoat because I don't think that's fair. I think it's more fair to say that there's politicians and folks who have an interest in making public schools not as good, and we need to attack those individuals. And if they are related to businesses that run charter schools, like say a Betsy DeVos type thing, then we need to deal with that separately. But those are my 2 points that I want to bring up. And I'm really curious, does anybody actually have empirical data on any of the 2 things I brought up just now?
I also want to point out that there is a difference. Can I quickly point out? Yeah, I know. Go ahead. Can I quickly? Before we get too lost in this without having the right nuance, there are different kinds of public charter schools. I am 100% for special use or special purpose charter schools for people with learning disabilities and stuff like that. I think that would be better. Now, can we take the models that they use that are successful and eventually apply them to public schools? Yes, please.
I agree.
I mean, that seems perfectly fine, and I think it is important to pay attention to like what kind of businesses are involved in schooling as well. As someone who has taught kids, and I visited like I don't know, like hundreds and hundreds of schools as an after-school vendor, provider, whatever. I've seen charter schools that are amazing, and I was very happy to teach chess there. And then I saw some schools that I hated visiting every week because, the school system was garbage. There's no discipline in the school as a result of the garbage system. And I think you can actually make a case for both arguments based on my personal experience. So I want empirical data so that we can actually figure out what the answer is instead of us like,
There are just too many working variables.
The stuff that I've personally.
I was just going to say quickly, there are too many working variables to actually get clean-cut statistics that show causation. Like you always have things like income within the neighborhood, but within families as well. So with all of these variables that you have to work with, I think that the best we can do is talk about like what is actually causing these things instead of just looking at numbers that have no meaning.
Yo.
Sure, but like we didn't actually have any.
I mean,
we got to move on. Kel, and then
So to be specific, it probably sounds like I care more about this than I do because I'm having to raise my voice over people. But like charter schools seem to be not the worst things. Like there are worse things to worry about. But if we're talking about effective policy that we should be pointing to and looking to pass, because realistically we have attention span attention economy, whatever the fuck it's called, and into what we can point our like hands to and solve at the same time, especially in terms of what gets media attention. Putting more charter schools in, especially school vouchers, which is like probably the worst thing we could be pointing to. There is like a fuck ton of other solutions to solving the problem of education rather than pointing to charter schools. To be clear, there are benefits to charter schools, and I will list them off now. You will see that, like, especially among like Black Africans, you'll see like I think it's like a 4% short-term point increase in test scores, which doesn't seem to hold for long run, but they do increase. And they are better for those people. White people actually tend to see a net negative, funnily enough. But they are like small benefits versus small losses, right? In my opinion, there's just better things to do, better things we could be pointing to our political capital to solve this issue, rather than talking about giving more private people money, especially when you're going to have lobbying efforts pushing to take money away from public schools towards charter schools, because realistically, you do have that student paces per thing. Yep. Go on.
I mean, can't we just attack?
So everyone Omni.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is too, you can give theoretical explanations of ways that charter schools may do benefit or harm. I think we have strong economic reasons, just on purely theoretical grounds, to think that they would do more harm, because we would expect that parents generally know what's best for their kids more than government bureaucrats. So allowing parents to have more flexibility in terms of It's okay. In terms of schools, would generally result in better outcomes. Furthermore, charter schools have to innovate, given that that 72% of all charter school laws explicitly instruct charter schools to serve as laboratories for new models of education, which require that they develop new ways of educating students better, which is why it's not surprising that time and time again, charter schools, according to Eden of Manhattan's Institute, they experience 32% higher test scores and a 19% higher college attendance rate. They consistently raise the resources of surrounding schools. The issue that was brought up about funding trade-off is not true. Funding per student goes up in public schools because the amount of money that charter schools get per student is lower than the amount that they would get at public schools. So they can dedicate more money for each student. And so as a result, overall costs go down and outcomes go up. The empirical literature is very clear that that's the general trend.
Right.
Because
Dan, give it home. No, Dan.
Yeah. I can't believe like a lot of this people haven't even acknowledged that. A lot of people don't know that many of these charter schools are way more expensive for an average person than a regular person. Like there's programs for children to able to get free meals in elementary school to other public schools just because of a government program that helps them do it. Charter schools don't have to liability do that. They still have to. These kids go away hungry, and that's like the only way they could do it. Along with that, these charter schools are made for a profit. They have stakeholders. They could easily also shut down the school in the middle of the year for the sake because they don't make enough money or all the investments pulled out of it. It's utterly ridiculous that much of these points like we keep defending them while these are just for-profit institutions for like educating children. And it's just I don't know why like Chaos and has to like go to the end and defend it on the basis of his own perspective opinion coming from a different country other than most of our own, which are mostly affected.
Wait, it is so silly.
One quick note on something Omni said.
It is so silly to say that like the outcomes of charter schools are bad because like that's the whole reason we're arguing that they like increase inequality. Like the idea that charter schools are all gonna shut down and take all their money elsewhere is like really stupid.
Okay, right. Please, I need to respond to Omni. I haven't had a chance.
All right, I'll respond to Omni. Then we'll go to...
It'll take me like 2 seconds. Okay, please. One, I'm really surprised you keep saying that the literature is clear on this, considering this is actually one of the most divisive points on the literature. There are no medicine, and I'm surprised you haven't posted anything yet that I've seen. All you've said is referred to these nebulous studies, or maybe even quoted an author, which is cool, but I'd like to actually see the studies, please, if you can post them. That being said, the literature is absolutely divided on this, which is one of the reasons why both of us are able to point to different studies, which I've been posting in the chat and in the VC chat as well, right? About these things. The other thing is like having other models is cool and experimental models is sick. This is one of the better things about charter schools, to say a nice thing. For example, for anyone here who knows what a Montessori model is or a Steiner model, those models aren't necessarily aren't able to be done by public schools because of the ways that public schools are set up. So that having those as like charter schools isn't the worst idea because those alternate models of education have massive amounts of value. I have a preference for them personally, right? I really like Montessori schools. So like the literature isn't clear. Please stop stating that it is because there's absolute division in this. This isn't like division on climate change. This is like division on a 50-50 issue, right?
Okay, so let's go to cut sleeve. Right. So we'll go to cut sleeve, Biggs, and then Nine Tails.
Yeah, so specifically some fundamental problems on this information. My problems come with Dan. I don't think Dan's correct when he states this. I actually took a look at the article. The article didn't make any relation to the public and private schools. All they said was Katrina hit New Orleans in a way that private schools couldn't bounce back the public education given to these New Orleans. They never made any comparison to public. Yeah. Well, wait, they made no comparison to the public or private schools, and they never made the statement that public schools would have done better than New Orleans. Your data does not prove your point.
The point is that it doesn't work because all of them are gone, dude. Like
wait, you're not understanding. You're not understanding. The data, the article never said public schools would have worked better. This is a dispute between which works better, charter schools or public schools. And your article does not make a point on whether charter schools impact public schools. It doesn't even reference public schools.
Okay, all right, Biggs.
Yeah, so I think that the one thing that I've noticed from this panel so far is that a lot of these arguments are based on actually incorrect information. I think that some of you think that these charter schools can just reject any students they want. That's not true. What Dan Stepp said about the food programs, they have those in charter schools. I think a lot of this information is just incorrect, and I think you guys need to search a little more and see, like, there are studies that show that there are some benefits and some negatives to public schools because of charter schools, and the effects of charter schools might not necessarily be as beneficial as people make it out to be. But I'm all about freedom and choice, and competition breeds better outcomes overall for the most part. And again, I know this is a little bit touchy because we're talking about public education, and that's something we need as a society. But I think that having more options for parents and giving them the freedom to choose overall is a net benefit to society. And I think we can work out these problems with the public schools themselves, but still allow for charter schools to have this choice. And I agree with what Ninetail said about having specific programs for people like special education, like having these charter schools that are specifically catered to specific needs of specific students, therefore giving them a leg up. So that's my my opinion on that.
Ninetails.
I don't know why we keep making this point that like parents know what the best for their children.
Ninetails.
Yeah, so when we're saying that we have data that supports both sides of the arguments, and data that, and the data itself is literally impossible to look at and reverse engineer, I want to hear from people, not just that you found something that supported your bias, but what is the actual causal reason that A is better than B, or B doesn't have, even for Biggs. Biggs, you say that like we can't charter schools can't pick and choose. Where, how do you know? Where does it say that?
Look up the laws for state charter schools.
Okay, but you know, like here in Canada, that
they
might
are not allowed. That would be discrimination.
So at least we can agree. We can agree that like it's important that we regulate these things. And this is the problem I have with what Omni said, is that when we like if we've clearly seen, and it'll take me forever to find this, but when private audits were done by third-party companies of charter schools, they did a terrible job. When the government, and I'm gonna like rough the number here, but when the government did it, for every dollar that the private auditing companies found, the government found $165 of misuse. So that's a huge problem in this. Secondly, or lastly, is like, charter schools are only really good if you regulate them properly. And if your argument is something along the lines of, well, schools can just do whatever they want, and that's charter schools can just do whatever they want, and that makes them better, then you're opening up a lot of possibility for that to be misdone. And I strongly suspect that if that's the case, then you're just finding papers that support your argument, but while ignoring the downsides. Because as we've seen with anything that's laissez-faire, you don't get homogenous results. And I think that's the problem here, is people are expecting there to be homogenous results when there aren't.
So we'll go to Top Dolphin, Mad Latin, Omni.
Kind of two things. The first thing, I don't know why we keep talking about how like, oh, we should, like, parents obviously know what's the best for their children, when like a third of parents still think spanking's okay, when it's like universally like accepted that like this is just bad for children and like can't be done in any effective way. And the other thing is like, I don't necessarily think that charter schools are like great and that we should like be building more of them, like let's leave, but like obviously like I don't get the point of like chasing these charter schools down, when like it seems like the kids that go to charter schools in general, like on average, get better educations than kids who go to public school. So instead of like demonizing charter schools, we should allow them to do their thing on the side while we like focus all of our education and voting power and money into public school systems.
Because that money that's being wasted by charter schools could actually be put into public district school funding. And I just got to point out, like, public schools is a bit of a misnomer. We know what that distinction means, but charter schools can count as public schools. District schools are usually what is said in like this discussion to differentiate them from a charter school.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the main thing is the fact that we're wasting resources, like teachers and faculty and all that, on schools that, while may be better than public schools, aren't serving an actual social utility beyond giving certain people better education.
Mad Lad.
And I think
Mad Lad, you jumped the turn. Mad Lad, and then Omni.
So I think I agree with Ninetails that reforming charter schools is definitely a topic, because there are definitely businesses that squander the resources they're given. So I think for-profit charter schools do need to be monitored, but this debate isn't which is better, public schools versus charter schools. That's not the point. The point is, should charter schools be involved in the future of our education system? And I don't see any reason to remove charter schools from the equation if we're actually paying attention to these schools and making sure that they're good institutions. There's a lot of debate. We don't know clearly what the impact is. Apparently there's a lot of divided debate. We have no idea. So if we don't have an idea of what's going on, then why are we talking about removing it from the equation altogether? It just seems kind of arbitrary and silly.
Well, let's say they were like impossible to regulate, then I'd be entirely against them. So
if it's like impossible to regulate and it turned into like, you know, a private prison situation where kids are being directed to these schools, and then there's these companies that are just like raking in the cash, and the students are all suffering as a result, and that story is actually legit true and happening all over the place,
and
then
you
yes,
think
I would
parents would
agree.
send their kids there? That doesn't make any sense at all.
My parent. Well, hold on. Like, I don't necessarily think that all parents are aware enough about the circumstances that their kids.
Are you a parent?
Yeah, I'm a parent, and I am aware.
Are you not aware?
I mean, I'm aware as I can be, but like, how many parents?
I bet you're pretty aware.
I'm sorry, Biggs. How many parents, Biggs, have found out that their kids were being sexually assaulted by folks they trusted? Are you telling me that parents are always aware? No, they're not. So fuck off. Absolutely not.
We all know
we're gonna go that way.
No,
Okay.
I'm just saying that you are trying to project.
You're gonna take it completely to the absolute extreme.
No, I am taking it to the extreme because you're neglecting
Biggs, you try to negate his argument.
Ridiculous.
And he goes completely off the rails with it. That's ridiculous.
No, I'm not going off the rails with it because parents can.
I think you're getting angry because you know you're being dishonest, because I think you know.
How is he getting Biggs? You're the one being dishonest. You're trying to. You were trying to provoke him.
Made incorrect and ignorant comment. The comment was that parents are always going to be aware of what their kids are going, and then you challenged me on whether I was a parent or not, as if that has an impact on my assumptions about how this is going on. And the fact of the matter is,
Big stop.
Fine, but the problem here is that you neglected some very obvious stories and scenarios that have occurred in our society previously that show that parents don't always know what's going on.
Okay.
I was just making a very clear point that parents can't actually always know what's going on. They'll get some indicators, but there's lots of parents who leave their kids with abusive babysitters too.
Okay.
What do you want?
Okay. All right. So we'll go to Omni. We'll go to Al and then Dan.
Yeah. So I think it was Ninetales who asked, what is the causal mechanism by which there are improvements from charter schools? Couple of causal mechanisms. One is competition makes it so that if public schools are not adequately providing a good service that that parents want to send their students to, that students will leave. And so if we think that parents generally have their children's interests in mind, though obviously not always, then parents will generally send their children to charter schools more if they're good. And so the local public schools have to improve the quality of their education to compete. It would also, in local public schools, increase the funding per student, because the amount of funding diverted to charter schools per student is less than the amount of funding that they get per person in public schools. It also forces innovation, given that 78% of charter grants require new innovative approaches to education. Claims there is empirical uncertainty on this issue. There's empirical uncertainty on every issue, but the better evidence is decisively in favor of charter schools. Kiyoshan made the claim that there are no meta-analyses. That is just false.
No, I said find me in a meta-analysis, right?
Yeah,
and I read your meta-analysis. I wonder if you've read it. Did you read the meta-analysis?
Which one are you referring to?
The one that you specifically posted that was in the Cato Institute article. Did you read the meta-analysis, or did you just read the Cato Institute article?
I read the abstract of the meta-analysis.
You read the abstract? Clap. We do the same fucking thing where everyone just goes through little articles. They look at the abstract. Oh, this agrees with me. This is sick. Okay. Maybe you should look at the data, the methodology, in the conclusion. Because even in the conclusion, they mention there is an advantage, but it's so fucking infinitesimally small. We take 2 seconds to look at this. Stream 1 and Cam, look at the fucking numbers. Look at how tiny these improvements are. How are these even classified as improvements?
Yeah,
we use this based. Kyo is actually pretty cool.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
we don't see papers around here. I had to go through paywalls to get that as well.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, so I don't generally trust my ability to sort through data. I generally defer to what the experts say about their data that they've collected. Quote, this systematic review and meta-analysis tests these theory by synthesizing the empirical literature on the competitive.
Did you read the discussion then? Because the discussion specifically written in papers for people to read with language that's suited to it. Because they even say it's very small in the discussion.
Okay.
Like, okay. They say that there is a small positive effect on competition of student achievement. But
he's getting up.
And you even made like points about it being like the better evidence. How can you say that the better evidence points to it when you just admitted that you can't make a distinction between the evidence because you don't know how?
So if you would let me finish the sentence that I was saying. So this is a meta-analysis that looks at all of the data and finds that on average, the studies find that there are small positive effects of competition on student achievement, and that it moderated the effects of competition. It said that.
And if you also read there, you'll see that they find that there's disagreement, specifically on the point that I mentioned.
There is disagreement. They found overall that the general effect is positive. If the general effect on students is positive of charter schools, which, as has been pointed out by people like Ninetails, that there are currently problems with public schools, with charter schools, where currently, there's underregulation of them in certain cases. Much of the funding is diverted to unimportant things. If despite all of that, they still offer a consistent improvement, then well-regulated charter schools.
Consistent improvement? No, it's not consistent. They even say it in there. The thing that overall, there's a very small benefit. Overall. These are not always very that's not what the word consistent means. And you still haven't answered the question as to why you say the better studies find this when you said you can't distinguish between the studies.
I mean, he's already an abstract bro, so.
Okay. All right, so.
Don't make snipes like that. I'm just curious as to find his reasoning, because I know that Omni's going to say something in response to this.
Omni, make it quick, because we got to move on. We're waiting.
Yeah, so I think that it is generally I generally think that people's ability to come to conclusions about what their study is saying, they generally have greater ability to come to conclusions about what their study is saying than I, as a person who is not a researcher, have ability to come to conclusions about what the people are saying. It's very easy to misinterpret data.
Then why can you say that the better studies distinguish this?
Okay, all right. He's.
What do you admit you were wrong?
Right,
this is a meta-analysis, and it concludes that there is a positive effect. It says the positive
meta-analysis didn't say anything about better or worse studies.
I guarantee he's not going to admit that. All right, look. Let's go to left of Sal, Dan, Cutsleep, and then Ninetails if we have time.
So I think there could be an argument made for charter schools being in the future of America's education system, insofar as they are used for this sort of like research-driven approach where they do implement these different learning mechanisms within the schools and see how they improve, et cetera. But insofar as improving education overall for the country, I don't think they should be the driving force of that. I think they should be relegated to these positions of research into different education techniques, because ultimately what they do for our society is drive more inequality, according to Kyo-san, and further divide further let politicians just sit on their ass about improving our education system. I think ultimately they could be still implemented in the future of America's education system. I just don't think they should be used as the mechanism by which we improve the education system. They should be just relegated to what we can do about improving what we already have.
Dan,
I agree with the last part.
Dan, Cutsleeve, then Ninetails.
I don't know what the guys who said that some charter schools have like a program that does with poverty children getting a food stamp. That is some schools. Public schools do all the schools because of a federal program. I don't know what the hell you said that. The one thing entirely in the end, I am for the good parts of a charter school, which is diversity and at least learning environments, and at least input more of a public investment by the city or county, and that for that answer will be magnet schools, not charter schools. This thing should be out of the question of having people invest into schools that were meant just for learning and should be done through a public manner than to be like, oh, this is not getting my money out, just put it off, and then the school closes because you're a rich dude who has to go with their money. That's what I'm arguing for.
Okay, let's go to Cut Sleep and then Nine Tails. Cut Sleep?
I'll be right back. I'm gonna do
Hello. Yeah. All right. So specifically, I can see both sides of the argument now, assessing the data and conclusions. So on Kyo-san's point, charter schools are obviously better because they are good at funneling, and most good kids travel to the charter schools, which is essentially the brain drain problem. Now Omni brings up the point, and Omni and I have data that says, irresponsive of what money charter schools absorb, they make public schools better. Now, on the abstract question, I honestly agree with Omni here. I don't think, unless you're a big brain like Kyo-san, I don't think you have the actual irrespective to absorb the data. So
that wasn't the reason I brought that up, to be clear, Cut Sleeve. I'm perfectly fine with reading abstracts. I agree. I hope that people read discussions as well, because discussions are there for that point. The point that I brought up was the fact that there were some things saying, well, the better studies find this, but you can't go between those.
Cut Sleeve, finish your point very quickly.
Okay, that's your point. Then I don't want to strawman here. The problem right now in America is a distribution problem. We have the fourth money poor people of any country in the world, and our education doesn't show. Now, to Madlad's point, I don't think the point of implementing charter schools and public schools are mutually exclusive. We have a distribution problem where we funnel money into the bad schools, expecting it to get good because we just put a lot of money in it, but that's not what the data shows. So I think Madlight's right when we can take a approach of both sides, where we can implement charter schools, but we don't leave the public schools for dead. We also implement the reforms that Omni, what's his name? The leftist Al says, where he talks about these reforms. I think we should implement the reforms and implement charter schools.
Okay, all right, that's the round. All right, thank you all. Okay, so what's going to happen next is that we are going to do a voting round, right? So audience members should be able to vote. All right, so I have waited until now, where more people came into the chat, to announce a slight rule change. I'm adding something for only for one time during the competition, right? If there is someone who gets voted off that I think is just great for whatever reason, and that should stay, I will save them. I will save one person if I think they're great. But that'll only happen one time, so I guarantee only one time. But still, someone needs to get eliminated. So in that case, right, let's say there are two people up, one person gets eliminated, and I save that one person, and the other person gets tossed. All right, so be prepared for that. And I may not use a power, right? So it's only if I think that honestly the wrong choice is made and tossing them out. And then we'll do that. Don't ask me to save you, because I'm not going to, right? And don't complain at me if I toss you, because it is what it is, all right? So understand that? Everyone prepared for that?
Yep.
Yep, good? Awesome, yeah. All right. So yes, it's a prime veto, exactly that. And it's rigged, exactly. Okay. So and
don't forget, if I get first place.
And if he gets first place, he'll shave his head. So all right, so now I'm gonna put the link in chat just momentarily, but so everyone can understand, including Kyo-san, right? You have how many minutes? You have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to vote, right? And no more than 5 minutes, right? So when I do the refresh, right? That's when the round is over. Not when you do the refresh. When I do the refresh, right? Kyo, when does it count? When does it count?
When I say it does.
No, okay, fuck yeah.
This is my show, and you're just living in it, all right?
I fucking love Kyo. He's great. So we're gonna put the link in chat. I'm gonna put the link in chat. 5 minutes, people. Vote for who you want. Which of these individuals you want to keep to go into the next round? Not who you want to kick, all right? Whoever's the most popular, or at least the most interesting, most fascinating, whatever, that's who you're voting for. 5 minutes. Holy shit. I get so frustrated.
Oh, by the way, for the people, just
Chat,
so I know what we can do that's sick.
Everyone watching right now, better fucking vote for me.
Okay. So so just a quick note of things that we can do to improve our schools. In my opinion, I would love to see, and I did a stream on this recently. We went over Alfie Cohn's evidence on it and a lovely video that was done. Let's abolish grades. Let's go. Let's abolish texting. Let's abolish grades. Let's have schools be places where people actually learn, not try to learn something small. Okay. Learning is important. Teaching how to learn is important.
Okay, agreed. Sure. But it's 5 minutes left. You guys can talk about whatever. And if you're just finding this channel, hit that follow button right now. We do this content all the time. Hit that follow button right this second. All right. We got 4 minutes left, so if you guys want to say anything.
I'm just honored to be in the light of somebody who actually believes that competition helps things. It doesn't help things in biology, doesn't help things in nature. I mean, it doesn't help things in economics. It makes them more strained. And suddenly this is going to work? Like, fucking hilarious.
I don't understand the argument for, having competition in an education system when in reality we should just be standardizing it and also finding new ways to innovate in it, exigent of competition.
I think competition is like the end all for like making things better. Like sometimes you have to, find other ways of improving things. But like a competition the idea that competition, like you're competing with something else, improves your performance on some level. Like it does. Like on some fundamental level, as a human being, when I know that I mean, a little bit, yeah. Like you see it when you compete. Like if I'm playing a chess game and I'm doing it just for fun versus doing it because I want to win, I act differently. And I think every human being has this fundamentally on some level, right?
I'm saying more stress.
Yeah, there's stress attached to it, and I'm not saying that the stress is always good, and I'm not saying competition is always good. What
I just want to. You just made something very clear. You just made something very clear, though. Okay. Let me point this out, is that like the chess players win chess games, great, but it's arguable that their quality of life goes down overall. And this is what I think is probably happening with charter schools too. The competition creates initial results that can be gleaned, but then over time you probably find a decline of things that are probably not declining in regular schools.
Well, I mean, like I think we would have to have charter schools around long enough to actually measure these things out too, right?
What is your basis for any of these beliefs?
Mine?
Why do you think that? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, so the answer was yes, it was me. Thank you for finally answering. So for one thing, this is generally how competition plays out in both capitalism and nature. For example, sometimes competition in nature can stabilize things, but usually that's because not having competition would be inherently bad. Now, I don't think it's inherently bad to not have competition in school, because guess what? These are kids' lives we're talking about, not the freaking first quarter returns on your stocks. So I don't think we ever needed competition. I think adding to it changes the landscape in a way that creates more strain on things, such as funding for schools, which you still haven't seen any evidence that it doesn't. And so that's my problem with it.
And funding per student goes up.
So
why? But you just say that. You keep on saying these things that make you sound correct. It sounds like you're just jerking yourself off and saying whatever you think.
We have less than 2 minutes. Hold on one sec. We have less than 2 minutes left. Vote right now. We haven't.
Oh my God.
Yet. Vote right this second. Vote right this second. Go ahead.
So the obvious causal account of why funding per student goes up is because the amount of money that charter schools get when they get an additional student is less than the amount of money that public schools get per student. And so directly, if more people are going to private schools, then just by necessity, the amount of money per student in public schools will be going up.
Yeah, I don't think that this is a homogenous thing. Like you say it like it is, but I highly, highly doubt that this is true in every state, for every school. So that's a big problem for me, for starters. The second is we have to start The answer is to manage our money better, not create a whole new supplementary system in place of this. So if you manage funding better within public schools, that would be better. But if somehow, like we've already accepted there's a model where you can take in less money, waste a good portion of it, and still do better for students. All you have to do is start applying that model to public schools. We don't need charter schools to do that.
Okay, so
we'll make a quick note about how like charter schools mostly save money by union busting.
30 seconds left from the voting. Go ahead.
Okay, so how does public, or how do we like get rid of all the problems in public schools and make them magically do all the desired innovations?
The same way that charter schools magically solve them.
The reason why charter schools do them is because they have an incentive to do them, given that their grants requires that they develop new innovative educational programs. If those new innovative educational programs don't work, then people don't go to the school and they lose funding.
If this was the case, what you would see is the US would have uniquely high testing scores compared to every other nation on earth who have standardized education because they have that.
Reasons. For a variety of reasons, it's as much as
we are done with the voting. Okay, I have refreshed. Don't care what it says on your screen. Kill.
My screen says I won, so that's okay.
My screen says the same thing. All right, fair enough. All right, coming in at number 1 by by quite a bit actually. Our boy Kill, right? Going in strong. Right?
Chat loves the shouty man.
Indeed, they do. Right? Followed relatively closely by our guy Mad Latin. Nice work, man. Nice work, Mad Latin. Let's put you up in the
shameless dude you are
in the winner's circle.
Extremely shameless. Yes.
Right there in the winner's circle. All right. Okay. Omni and Ninetales tied there. Okay, that's cool. At the bottom though, the people that we shame. Just kidding. Is Top Dolphin, right? Left. God damn it, these ties. I wish people would vote more. All right, so Left This Out, Cut Sleeve, and Biggs. All right, so all right. How am I gonna break this tie? It makes this very difficult for me. All right. How about this? Well, I'm going to refresh and see what happens. Maybe it broke. Maybe it broke. Maybe that tie broke. It would make my life so much... No, it didn't. Okay. All right. Okay, so we have 3 people at the bottom. Left This Out, Cut Sleeve, and Biggs. Maybe Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. Like, I forgot a way to do these things. Okay, we're doing it. Eeny... Meeny, Miny, Mo. Catch a tiger by his toe. If it screams, let it go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. All right, Biggs, you're saved. So, Cut Sleeve and Left This Out, you're at the bottom.
Thank you.
I have no idea what to do with these ties. They're really annoying. I don't know what to do. Let's put over here. There we go.
Rock, paper, scissors?
We've tried. Okay, all right. So here's what happens next. Top Dolphin, Left This Out, and Cut Sleeve will beg Kyo-san and Mad Latin for the privilege of staying, right? Because Kyo-san and Mad Latin will be voting people off. So you get 30 seconds on the clock to make your case. Left This Out, why should you stay?
Mad Lad, my guy. We are besties. We met through Katarana. We had a healthy debate, and I hope that I have proven to you that my rhetoric and my facts and logic are up to par, and you keep me on. We can pal around more. We can get more spicy takes going. Get a little rapport going, you know?
I mean, that sounds nice. That sounds very good. I will take that into consideration. Let me just write this down. That'd be best friends forever.
Hell yeah.
Friends forever. Okay. And you mean that?
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Okay, all right. So there's like almost a blood contract, right? Like,
So left this out though, right? There are two people who are voting. Either one of them could vote you out. It's interesting that you've just completely forgotten.
I'm an afterthought, I say.
Yeah, I see.
I'm sorry, Kyo-san. I don't know you very well. I apologize for the heresy.
Heresy. I see. This is just bold discrimination now. You're not making a strong case for yourself.
Oh boy.
Damn.
Next, cut sleeve. Why should you stay?
I have specific arguments for both specific people. For Kyo-san, it's very simple. I posted "Go vote Kyo-san" in chat because, like, I honestly think you did the best, and I clicked on your name. So, like, I voted for you. Specifically to the Mad Lad, I know you're a big chess fan. I'm also a big chess fan. I have a lot of games. I suck though, but I can promise you a chess match afterwards. Since you know, like, both specific thing to both specific people, and specifically to the overall broad narrative of what Prime Royale is. You don't want to vote out all the righties because then you have no villain. See, take Death Note, for example. Death Note's only good because Light Yagami is the protagonist with an equally good antagonist, such as L. With no antagonist, you have no Death Note.
Ooh. Now, question. If you're interested in chess, would you take free chess lesson? Like, if I was offering a free chess lesson, hypothetically, with a company that I founded, you would take the class.
Look at my computer. I'm already on your site, bro. I'm already on your site.
Following through. That is a good thing. All right, here, let me just write that down. Following through. I want to do this right. All right, cool.
All right, so I wonder if that trumps a best friend forever, like a customer. Interesting, we'll find out. Moving on. Top Dolphin. Why should you say?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this wasn't a very strong topic for me. Charter schools are kind of a non-issue. Like, not a non-issue, but it's like such a small thing in the broad scope of education. I enjoyed what Kyo-san had to say, and Mad Lad as well. Mad Lad, chess is cool. If you want to give me free lessons, I'd appreciate it. I'm like 1,300 in blitz, but I can't get out of 600 elo in bullet, so or blitz.
Ooh, all right.
I need help with that. Kyo-san, like, I really appreciate it. You like I mean, the first panel I was ever on, you were there, and you obviously know your shit when you talk about it, and so I really enjoy. So if you want to keep me around, I'd appreciate talking to you some more, and hopefully disagree with you.
Okay, all right, great, fantastic. Next, Kyo-san and Madeline will DM me the results. Which one of these individuals are you tossing?
I need help. What's the name of the song from Death Note that goes do 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 do? I need it. I need it to play in the background.
It's L's theme song. L's theme song.
Is it L's theme song?
L's theme song. Yep, it's L's theme song.
Okay. All right. I got.
It is there. Hell yeah! I'm gonna put that on while I make my decision. Give me a second.
So, Madeline, I want to be clear. Is the person you sent me, is that the person you're throwing out, which is what I've asked for, or is it the one you're keeping? Throwing out. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Next, our good friend Kyo.
Got a message.
And I hope Kyo picks someone completely different from me, so it's completely anonymous who I voted to remove.
I'll let him know. I can. Oh boy.
Well, please don't make me have to demonstrate my actual vote.
Well,
I love you all.
That's unfortunate because Al, you got 2 votes.
Mad Lad, I feel betrayed. I feel so betrayed.
I'll be real. My reasoning here was Dolphin seems to have already done the reading on a later topic, which I'm really excited to talk about, and is the main reason I came on today. And Cut Sleeve is Cut Sleeve. I just love Cut Sleeve. He's so like immensely positive, even though we disagree all the time. Love that kid. I love him so much. He's like my favorite.
Okay.
I can't throw him out. I can't do it.
Okay. All right. Well, you've empowered Al. You've empowered Al now. To toss one of these people out. So, Al, since you got 2 votes, right? That means one person has got to come with you. Which one among Cut Sleeve and Top Dolphin is going down to the grave with you? You guys can you want to make a case to left this out if you want. If not, leave it up to his mercy. No? All right. Well, I'll fucking make a choice.
Cut sleeve.
Okay. All right.
Rip.
Okay. All right. It is what it is. Though, cut sleeve, I actually really did enjoy you here. Like, I thought you really did a good job. Actually, like, I think sincerely you did a fantastic job. But Al, like a zombie, dragged you underneath, right, into that deep dark void with him. So, cut sleeve first. Give us an outro, all right? Any final words you have to the audience?
For sure. My name is Cutsleeve. You can find me on the Discord. Hope to see you guys next time.
All right, yes. Cutsleeve.
He's so positive. I love it.
I like Cutsleeve too. I like having him around. All right, thank you, buddy. Next, Leftist Al, the one who murdered the sunshine in our lives. Leftist Al, we have a say.
Yeah, I'm the Leftist Al. I do react to any content, sometimes media analysis. I'm doing a series of interviews called The Voices of Pride on my channel. So if you're LGBT, if you fall under that umbrella, just send me a DM and we can set something up. You can find me at the twitch.tv/LeftistAl, YouTube channel The Leftist Al, or on Twitter at The Lefty Owl.
Okay, all right. Off you two go. Thank you all for being here. All right.
Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Okay.
You left us. Sorry, I didn't
No
mean to.
karma, Jory.
No, you meant to. That was on purpose. He did it on purpose.
I mean, no, it was hard for me to do that.
Okay.
It hurt me. Right.
All right.
Wait, I just want to say, Contra Karma Jewelry, we can't trade cut sleeves for Omni.
Contra, what? Oh, you mean you want me to? What'd you say? Oh, Karma Jewelry. Okay.
Karma Jewelry in the chat said, "Can we trade cut sleeves for Omni?"
Oh, no,
I mean,
no.
I think cut sleeves is great, but
No.
I like Omni as well.
No. Sorry. That's
I actually like. I thought we did. This is a nice harmonious group.
Yeah.
More or less.
Harmonious.
Harmonious. I'm not sure that's the word I've used, but okay.
Fine. Like, we're all good. We're all homies.
All right.
I think.
Well, Top Dolphin has escaped execution this time. We'll find out.
Yeah, somehow I slipped out.
Okay. Next topic. I never have them in front of me when I say that though. Which one would be the better one? Okay. All right. We'll just do this one. When cities invest massively in a sports franchise, such as building stadiums for a team, should they be able to recoup those losses not just through taxes, but by partially owning the franchise? 35 minutes left on the clock.
So when sports fans get excited that their city wins, I think that's like really vacuous. In fact, I'm pretty sure people are just conflating locality with any actual greatness of the city. In fact, players get traded all the time, so that's definitely not that. I think the best way to make your city proud that you won is to say, look, not only do we fund this team, but fund this stadium, but the team is great because of us, because our city makes it great. So if you're a sports fan, I think you should want this, because then your city will actually win when your team wins.
Yeah,
Can I do it then? Who goes to you?
Go ahead, Omni and then Dan. Sure.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, why would we think that the city having control over a sports team would result in things going better? I think we have no reason to think that. I think that generally private companies that are sports teams are generally better at running it. There was a article by Edwards in 2016 that was just examining privatization, and it cited a bunch of studies. So, for instance, it cited a 1994 study in the Journal of Finance, looked at 61 privatization. There were more studies.
Sorry, I thought I was muted. That was for my audience.
Omni.
It's okay. That looked at 61 privatizations in 18 countries and found, quote, strong performance improvements surprisingly without sacrificing employment security. After being privatized, firms increase real sales, become more profitable, increase their capital investment spending, improve their operating efficiency, increase their workforce. A 1999 study in the Journal of Finance compared the performance of 85 firms across 28 countries before and after privatization, and it finds that privatization yields significant performance improvements. A 2003 study in the Journal of Public Economics found the empirical literature has provided systematic evidence that privately owned companies outperform state-owned enterprises. A 2004 study found that greater access to services, which usually follows privatization, leads to welfare gains for the poorest consumers that outweigh any increase in prices. And I can just go on and on and on, and this article does. Generally, you would expect that if companies have an incentive in making sports games, good and exciting, so they would adequately make sports teams good and exciting and would be best for the consumer of sports. And then we look at when we gather data and look at what the empirical literature suggests, we find that that's just overwhelmingly the case.
Okay, so
all you saw there is that companies have an incentive to make us.
We'll go to Omni. Dan, sorry, we are Omni. Dan, Biggs. Go to Dolphin, and then Ninetales and Malad. And
yeah, I respectfully disagree.
Yeah, Kill. Last one.
Okay, I would respectfully disagree with Omni on his points that he wants to put forth privatizations or having cities not having it, putting investment into a sports stadium, but not exactly reaping the rewards or at least the cost of profits from it. And we have seen a lot of examples of it done correctly through the United States and outside the United States. Manchester United is probably one of the best cases for soccer, and its city is very much proud of it and almost probably fanatical to the point where they riot if something happens to if the team doesn't do well.
Is that a good thing?
Can I finish? And we could look at the Green Bay Packers, who have gotten so much out of their team to a point where they're able to fund many of their facilities, from education to other maintenance through road properties and other programs that they put forth through their government. It's very, even as you could point through many studies, it doesn't really take the account of the happiness and other index of money that's put forth to that. As you mentioned, specifically with privatization, someone gets money, like a private person who doesn't have to give a care about what the public does, gets a profit out of it, mainly most of it. And instead, I'm for the cause of having a city to at least get something out of it than to just paying for funding for a stadium and gets basically just a parking lot.
Well, I don't think that cities should fund sports leagues in the first place. I mean, it's generally funding billionaires. The reason why they do right now is a city might benefit by making it so that the sports team moves into the city, but overall, the cities in general are harmed because it's a classic tragedy of the commons, where an individual city is better attracting, the sports capital investment, but it's not better overall. But I mean, naming sports teams and then saying that those sports teams are good and are public is not an argument as to why general publicization is a way of improving the functioning of sports teams. When the empirical literature is just very clear that privatization is generally a better method.
All the privatization does is increase profits. It makes people that want to make profits are going to be better at making profits. Okay, if you want to have $8 hot dogs at your fucking football game, hell yeah, dude, make it private. If you want to have an incentive to make it enjoyable for the people, you want $3 beers, you want it publicly owned.
Great, Kill. Did you forget your last? You're dead fucking last. All right. So we're going to Biggs.
Yes. All right. So I actually, I 100% agree with what Ninetales said. I think that it is perfectly reasonable for these cities and locales to have some type of stake in the game and being able to get maybe some type of profit sharing or things like that. I think that's perfectly reasonable, especially when you figure these taxpayers are footing the bill. I also agree with what Dan said. And he actually didn't take it a step further than what I would say, because like his example was the Green Bay Packers, which I don't know if many of you know that the Green Bay Packers are actually owned, are a public company owned by the fans. which is it's the complete. It's the only one in the NFL, but because of how they started originally, they actually got that to be put into the NFL charter, things like that. So the NFL actually just shares profits, and they actually gain that profit. So I think it's perfectly reasonable when the government and the taxpayers are footing the bill to expect them to get some type of return on their investment. I think that's perfectly fine. The one thing I would say though is there is a lot of information, and I think that the left will have that says like there's a lot more losses taken year to year on maintenance and stuff like that, which I agree is true. But I do think from what I was looking at today, the articles are showing that they're understating the actual economic benefits. But again, that's debatable. But I do think it's perfectly reasonable for the shareholders to be the actual public interest and the taxpayers, because that just seems fair to me.
Okay, we're on to excuse me, Top Dolphin, Ninetales, Nat Light, and Kale.
All right, so first I'm gonna say Omni. That was a whole lot of useless fucking statistics that you rattled off at the beginning. Every single one of them was about privately run businesses, not necessarily like publicly owned or like the public owning a share. Like if a city invests in a business and takes like a 2% share of profits at the end, does not mean that they're like making decisions for the business and how said business is going to run. In general, I think it's a pretty like easy question to answer when it comes to like the question that was like the topic. Yeah, like if cities put money into like sports teams, should they be able to take like a 1 or 2 or 5, whatever would be industry standard percent share of ownership in said team to like recruit benefits? Of course. Like I'm not sure like how you do this or how like this would be structured, but this is something that's like obvious. If you're putting investment into something, especially as a city, you should get like adequate investment out of it. Now you can talk about whether or not cities should be putting funding into local sports teams, and that the evidence seems a lot less clear. It seems like it's highly dependent on the sports teams, the localities. Some localities are great for sports teams. Some localities are garbage for sports teams. Some cities can like benefit a lot. Like some cities can go build a stadium and make tons of money off it. And some cities build stadiums and just throw money down the toilet. So that's like a lot less of a clear question, but like should like cities be able to partially own sports teams to get money out of it? Like I think that's like a no-brainer.
All right. Let's go to Ninetales, Mad Latin Kale.
Okay, so yeah, I definitely agree with Dolphin on that. If cities are going to put in this much amount of money, then they should get something back. But it goes a bit further because when you put a stadium in the middle of a city, you suddenly have all of these logistical issues. People got to get downtown, they got to get back home at very specific times of the day. This creates a rush. This could be happening during rush hour, for example. So you can get all sorts of conflicts. One of the reports from small business owners, and this is anecdotal largely, and it's from last week tonight. So it's not really an academic source, but it makes sense that a lot of small businesses in the downtown cores lose their regulars during the times when stadiums are operating because those people don't want to go downtown and deal with all the traffic and stuff like that just to deal with it. So it makes sense that whenever cities have a stadium, they're probably going to have to invest more in transportation, other facilities around downtown. I don't want to have to list them all off. And the last thing I want to point out is that cities often have to deal with a lot of corporate pressure by having these things. Like they get pressure from their populations too, because everyone wants a stadium essentially and wants a big sports team and stuff like that. But these corporations do put like a lot of pressure on them to allow things that even violate building codes and stuff like that. If cities owned this would eliminate the problem, which I don't think cities are capable of handling very well. I don't trust politics at the municipal level to fend off much larger corporate interest.
Mala and Kill.
Look at a relatively older article talking about whether cities get benefits from stadiums in the first place, because I think that's a big part of like deciding whether. I mean, so first off, I think it would be really cool for cities to have a partial ownership in sports teams, because I'm just curious to see how this would work. And the Green Bay Packers are a fantastic example of that. Like, just they're an excellent sports team. I mean, I'm from Detroit, so like the Detroit Lions, or I'm from Michigan, so the Detroit Lions are my, team. But the Green Bay Packers are awesome.
Honolulu blue and gray.
But the thing is that cities don't necessarily get a lot of benefits from stadiums. Like economic growth takes place when people have like productivity, and it seems like stadiums kind of take away from productivity due to like just how busy a city gets during a game. So I think the city actually gets quite a bit. Cities getting more rewards for those stadiums would be better in the long run, and I think exactly what Dolphin was saying, like a 2% stake in a stadium and a sports team isn't going to let the city all of a sudden say, oh yeah, well you actually have to change the color of your uniforms, change the name of your team, and also we're going to hire this coach. Like it doesn't work that way, right? I think you can kind of thread the needle between making it a efficient private enterprise while still letting the public get quite a bit from the act of building a giant stadium in the middle of the city.
Okay, so I'm going to appeal first off to the 200 people who are sitting here listening to political discussions on a Saturday night. Sports ball fucking sucks. Who cares about this? Fucking kick the ball bad. Fuck off. Fuck these non-nerds. They can eat shit, all right? So now that I've done my like political appealing a portion of the position. Pardon?
You mean like rugby?
I used to play rugby. I fucking hate rugby. Fuck sports ball. So like the other side of this is like, look, let's be real. Nobody likes going to a fucking people-packed point, paying $9 for a fucking hot dog and $12 for a beer because you're stuck in a shitty spot, right? Imagine if the public owned that, because we understand that private industries are very good at turning a profit and keeping costs low. Guess what public industries are good at doing? At fulfilling what the people's needs are, fulfilling people's wants. And guess what I want? I don't want to pay fucking $20 for a hot dog and a beer. Guess what you don't? You don't want to pay $20 for a hot dog and a fucking beer, right? Nobody wants to pay $20 for a hot dog and a beer. Imagine if the state owned it. It'd be $15 for a hot dog and a beer because it'd still be pretty inefficient in running it, but that's cheaper than $20, right? Nobody wants a $20 hot dog and beer. Who cares about the ball kicking, right? Privately owned teams aren't going to fucking perform better. What the fuck? By the way, you've just given me another reason to like the Green Bay Packers. I used to only like the Green Bay Packers as a football team because on that 70s show, Red would talk about looking to watch the Green Bay Packers, right? Now, I think Red's cool from that 70s show because I'm a millennial, I'm a younger millennial, and I watch old TV shows, and Red's cool, right? So you've just given me another reason to love the Green Bay Packers. So thank you. So for everyone who hates football, vote for me. For everyone who hates $20 beer and hot dog, vote for me. I'm clearly the best one here. I'm just shitting up this topic at this point.
That was the most nothing answer.
If you love puppies, if you love rainbows, also vote for Kyo. All right, let's go.
Yeah, that was some nice emoting from Kyo.
Can we actually mention? I want to talk about Kyo's point. Actually, one really important thing. This is also why RoboCop is the best movie ever because the show was the bad guy.
Smith is amazing.
Oh yeah, he was
amazing.
So good.
Yeah,
he was, and it's just the coolest thing ever. Okay. Especially, well, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. Everybody should see the 1987 version of RoboCop.
Okay. Great.
Can I respond to Kyo real quick?
Sure.
I agree with you, but I'm going to take away much different conclusions. First of all, I agree that all sports with balls are bad. This is why frisbee golf is superior. Also, frisbee golf takes place in open fields that usually aren't even golf clubs, which is awesome. They're free, they're open access. You just need a pair of discs. This is what sports should be. This is what we make sports now. Fuck this professional athleticism shit.
I like it.
Yeah,
that's a good take.
Man, Kaio said that's such a downer. I think that's why you're from the land of down under. So we have to. I get that you guys don't really have a famous like football team or rugby, whatever.
We literally have Aussie rules football.
We have Aussie rules football.
Yeah,
we have
like
we have one of the best rugby union teams on the. If we want to get the nationalism here, we have one of the best rugby union teams on the planet and one of the best cricket teams on the planet. Okay, sports ball sucks, but Australia is still the best at it.
Cricket, I don't know about that, but
how do you explain cricket? I don't actually understand cricket. Not to go off topic too much, but Kia, I was hoping you could explain cricket for me.
Not now. What the fuck? Come on, no. Look, Omni, say something on the topic, please. We have 20 minutes left.
Yeah, I mean, so Kyo's long rant was just about why, like, the government is good. I listed, like, 20 studies, including many systematic literature.
You listed, like, 20, like, non-relevant studies. Like, you've been doing this a little bit now. I don't know if this is on purpose, but it's, like, privatization, good at doing this, this, and this, all of which has nothing to do with, like, dividend sharing on sports ball. Like, I get that, like, making your point with numbers makes it more convincing and that there's studies to show that, but, like, doing it with irrelevant studies just wastes everyone's time. Come on, buddy.
It says that wait, what claim that was made by the studies that I've cited do you think is irrelevant?
The sharing funds with the city. Like every study you listed had nothing to do with other, like sharing.
From memory, it was good at keeping costs down, keeping profit high. Maybe there was some other stuff. Was there? From memory, was there anything to do with like private businesses increasing consumer happiness, I guess, or something?
You guys have another debate.
There was
taxes.
I think the 2012 study that I gave, if I'm remembering correctly, found that it increases consumer welfare.
Consumer welfare. What does that have to do with the point?
Well, you asked.
What is
for
consumer
a study.
welfare even?
You asked for
so
a
the
study
thing, I said that the consumer enjoyment of happiness or happiness or enjoyment. That's not welfare. Come on,
can
why?
we get back on the point?
How are you defining
the point here?
Yeah, we're going off the point a little bit.
It was looking at
we're mostly talking about Kaizen's own personal bias and all of that. We're talking about generality of everyone, and some people do love sports, and even then they will take
people are wrong.
families.
So
I think whatever.
Just like $20 on a beer, you know? Like, what about me?
Yeah, like why give like a 5-year-old a beer? What the fuck?
Why not?
Wait.
It's clear you're American.
Yeah. So okay. So
Shots fired.
In terms of the question about of whether
I'm arguing with somebody in Prime's chat about whether or not. Oh, sorry, my mute is off again. I'm sorry.
I love you, Night Tails. I love you. You're amazing. It's okay. It's okay.
Omni, finish your point, then we'll go to Biggs. And on topic, please. We got 17 minutes left.
In terms of whether the studies are relevant, being on topic, they are obviously relevant to the discussion, given that if they have partial ownership, then they would make certain decisions for the businesses and be able to impose requirements like the ones that are described by Kiyosan of not selling
Omni,
like $20.
You are absolutely 1,000% wrong. If you don't have a controlling share or like a managing share of like some company, you have the zero ability to make decisions.
Right.
So like if you have like a 1 or 2% share, you don't make any decisions unless you have like a member on a board.
I remember how every time.
Like,
that whole deal.
The topic.
I remember the last time I went into AMD and I used my like 0.004% share to say, hey, you should make the boards go faster.
Look, I mean, the topic is explicit that it's not just about ownership of a percentage of wealth via taxation, but that it is specifically about whether or not they should have partial ownership over the company.
Yes. So partial ownership doesn't mean managing or controlling ownership. Partial ownership could mean that I own like 1% of a company and I get returns on it. That does not mean that I get to make decisions or that I have like members on like a board that like gets to make decisions. Like just because you own part of something, like technically if you go out there and buy a stock, you have partial ownership in a company, like Kiyosan said. But I can't go and like take my Nvidia stock and tell them to make graphics cards cheaper or tell them to make decisions because I don't have a managing or controlling share in these things.
Yeah, the difference between a stock and a share.
It would be kind of cool for a city to have a vote on things that a stadium does anyway. Like,
and sometimes they do. Sometimes like local like officials and stuff will have like a person on like a board or something like that.
Biggs.
Usually, the city usually has some situational things like parking for the city, right? Usually, stadiums need extensive parking structures and things like that, so they need to manage that. But what I was going to get to on my point originally was that I think that it's perfectly reasonable, and I don't know why Omni is trying to push back against this. I just don't understand the argument. I think that the others in the panel are correct. I think that just because you have a benefit to gain, like a dividend or something to actually recoup your costs as the taxpayer, I don't think that necessarily means you're making day-to-day decisions. You're making like trade decisions and like other things like that, right? But I also think that when you look at the studies, there's kind of both sides are a little bit faulty because when you look at like how much does it cost to build a stadium, like I think most things were like $200 to $500 million, right? Well, when you actually look at the taxes that are generated from that, like the cost to build the stadium, the city automatically makes back at least some portion of that due to like the people working on it, right? And things like that. So I think there's a lot more intricate details. I have an accounting background, so I kind of understand that a lot more than just the normal person. But I think that overall, and I think that Omni, what you said is kind of a little bit incorrect. On average, at least from what I've seen, cities lose about $1 million a year on their investments. And most of these stadiums have about a 30-year life cycle. So on average, the cities are losing about $30 million. So if we can find a way to get these cities to at least be able to break even, I think that's a net positive. But I also would like to see these be able to generate actual revenue and actually be able to improve these cities as well. Because I think that it's kind of silly to have this team be able to make billions of dollars. And again, I know it's different based on where you're at and what, like, some teams make more, some teams make less. But I think that we need to be able to find a way to share that revenue and actually improve these cities. And that can actually improve things like, if we want to put it towards education and things like that. So I think we kind of tie this all together and just make social programs a priority, and actually have it be, the extra benefit to everybody.
Yeah, I very much agree with much of everyone's point, including Top Off, and that I think that with at least a good enough share for the local government to put into the stadium and the team itself, will have more accountability to the amount of spending that was put into the stadium in the first place. Like, I mean, there's things like the Merlin Stadium they were planning to put like a tank of like fish, of exotic fish in there, and a pool for like all their at least rich donators to the.
Can I just point out they did, and the tank goes all the way around the stadium.
Yeah, and if we're a voter who at least through taxes paid for that stadium, I'll be furious. I would be furious if I was living in Florida. I feel sad for many of the Floridians who live near Merlin Stadium, who have to deal with like the cost of a ridiculous point to have fish in an environment and have to pay for the maintenance for it.
Right. I mean, I think that funding of stadiums in the first place is just very clearly an example of crony capitalism. Obviously, a terrible idea. The majority of Americans are opposed to the funding by the government of stadiums. It's just giving money to billionaire corporations for no good reason. So, I mean, I think that. And it just makes no sense to be funding the stadiums in the first place.
Because they sugarcoat the proposals. They make it look all like rosebuds and daffodils, and then it ends up being like a lump of coal.
So the solution then is to have these properties be the cities. Have this all be the cities. That way, no matter what you do, the decision comes back to the city. And that's what bothers me is, like, let's say you get funding. It's not going to benefit the city. It's going to benefit the person who owns the team. It's literally getting the city to do something that in like capitalism you should be doing yourself.
Madeline.
I mean, that actually is an excellent point. It's the first time I actually agreed with Omni on this topic so far. Government should not be spending money on business. And I agree with Kyo-san that government involvement in a sports team will reduce the cost and prices. I just shared a link in Prime Chat that highlights the relationship between the government and the private sector. And basically, privately owned companies will pad their bottom lines, while publicly owned companies will do less of that. And I think there's a definitely benefit for that. But I guess now that we're talking about this, Omni bringing up the point that cities shouldn't be funding these stadiums, I couldn't agree more. So like that might be the better solution out of all of this. Is just that this is all done privately.
You know what? I'll take the negative position, and I'll say that I think that Biggs gave the really good reason here. I think that it's perfectly fine to have like tax incentive. What's the TIF? It's perfectly fine to have tax incentivized financing in certain circumstances, for ones that are going to like benefit the city. So like cities giving money to private corporations is sometimes fine. Okay, private corporations do certain things better. I'd rather those be co-ops, but that being said, private corporations do certain things better, and Omni was right in listing off the certain list of things that he does, because they have like different incentives to public institutions. Public institutions generally look to solve some issue, or look to like the citizens want, or look to work something internally. They don't have a profit motive. It's nice, right? But that they look more to have these things do something well at a low cost to the citizenry. So like the best example of this is usually like the post office.
Right, but if a city has like a fixed income, like a limited income, and gets to choose like where they're going to spend their money, is it a sports stadium where they should, decide to put their foot out there for a private business?
If it's profitable, yes. If it's not profitable, no.
Usually sell bonds.
Well, if a business builds there anyways, then the city's still going to have to do a bunch of infrastructural supports to facilitate that new thing.
It would depend on the city. So, like, if you've got like Green Bay is like a pretty small area from memory, and a lot of its economy is actually boosted by the GBP. I could be wrong. I'm trying to remember which one, but like for example, I'm trying not to use the really obvious one, but having like bumfuck Tennessee or whatever have some massive warehouse come there through like tax incentivized financing or some other financing issue that's going to generate revenue and jobs and have people there, like mining towns, I guess, isn't like the worst thing on the world.
My problem is like if you get a bunch of if you get like an entirely private enterprise come in, make this and not with UKO, sorry, this is just what's being said in general. Make this stadium, run the team, everything. They do it themselves. The city doesn't have anything to do with it. Now the city's on the hook for those infrastructural changes. And it's unprecedented for that city to go to that company and say, look at all the money we spent on this. You should pay for it now. So what do we do? How do we not have stadiums be an impact on those things? Because the problem I have with Omni's thing is that all of those metrics are within the confines of things like profits and capitalism, but there are greater societal impacts on this that didn't talk about. You shake your head no, but what about the transportation issues? What about cities having to upgrade their transportation so that way 10,000 people can move in and out of the city within a given hour?
Biggs?
Yeah, like
what I'm shaking my head about is the claim that none of the things addressed, like that they all merely addressed capitalist metrics. None of them address things that are about, doing what is actually best for people. That is not true. I mean, the study. Sorry, I'm pulling up the paper that I was citing.
I'm asking where do these other factors come in? It just seems like there's a lot of things that these papers that you're referring to don't consider. That if you did, it wouldn't seem so positive overall.
Yeah. So they find that.
You did read this already. I'm just pointing out.
Right.
I'm just making a point.
They improve customer satisfaction, for instance.
Yes.
I mean,
okay.
do you think it's good for customers to be satisfied?
What I'm saying is that there are other metrics that exist in reality. Customer satisfaction isn't the end-all be-all of quality of life and urban design. So what I'm saying is, if you consider those other things, as soon as you created a list that was comprehensive in all of these things, these net positives that you're citing would no longer just be a homogeneous success.
Okay, so what metrics do you think that they perform worse?
And what about people living near the stadium? What about businesses living near the stadium? Like they suffer for it, don't they? A little bit.
Or their property values go up, maybe. Or
so their noise levels.
I mean, right? Like I remember trying to go to a play like outside of stadium in Detroit. And I couldn't get into the building for the play that we paid for. Like all the performances were basically, the performance was basically a wash for folks who paid for tickets without realizing there's a sports ball game going on. And other businesses, restaurants, do get some benefit from being next to a stadium, but everything else, any kind of entertainment that's in a downtown area, suffers for the fact that there's a stadium nearby. If the infrastructure gets built up and people have easier access, maybe there's an argument there. But
Detroit's building up though better for that, I think.
Wait, but other entertainment industries would only suffer like while the stadium is being used for like massive events, right?
So
like that would only if you decided to compete. And like even in stadiums, by the way, aren't only used for like football games or baseball games. Like these things are used for concerts, they're used for meetings, they're used for benefits. Like there's a lot of different things that stadiums can be used for.
So I
had to be
community centers.
Let's go to Dan and then Biggs.
All right. Yeah, we also you made like even to make a point that these stadiums can use beyond just simply like a sports game, concerts, other forms of community events that could be used with a lot of people, and even certain things that would be done within the city, such as awards and such, can be done through that place. And we also include the tourist incentives of when someone shows up to your as a family or you're going to the area, they might want to spend extra to go to like a game that day, and that will with the city having some part of that with the stadium, having some ownership of the sports team, they get some money off of that too, to allow at least more income to the city itself, so that they can be more incentive to having much of everything else to be working according to their plans. It very much is very helpful, and I think a lot of people would agree with me on that.
Yeah, just to respond to that really quick. I would definitely say like
Biggs.
All right, so I think this is a pretty simple, pretty simple here. So we can have the best of both worlds, right? So I think the left wants to have as much put in back into the communities, right? And I think that if we look at it from the right and the free enterprise side of things, we literally have people being the taxpayers are being the initial investment to make these stadiums and things like that, right? So they're the initial investors. What do we expect in a free capitalist society? We expect the investors to have a return on investment, right? So I think in this case, we get killed two birds with one stone. We get the people, as in the taxpayers, investing their money into these stadiums. They gain some kind of benefit, whether that's some type of dividend or some type of cost recuperation, I guess. And then we can actually have it so that we have the stadiums can get built. We can bring more business, we can bring more jobs, and then we can also have the cities benefit additionally on top of that with actual like dividends or however they structure it, right? And I think it's up to the cities to make those decisions on how they want to structure it, but I think it's beneficial to all, both the stadiums, the fans, the city. Everything gets the best options possible.
So much. Ninetales?
Yeah, so all of the utilities that were listed could be done in other things like community centers, theaters, and stuff like that. And what you just said about tourism and how people might go to stadiums for fun, that makes the argument for how you're taking money away from tourist attractions, many of which are owned and operated by cities, many of which who are owned and operated by cities who receive revenue from that. So we don't need stadiums for any of that.
No, I completely disagree with that.
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, it's an investment. We have, even if it's not to you not enough, or you have other things that go for it, it is a thing that can be used for other major things that be going on. For example, if the city of Houston had a stake with using of like their own sports stadium for games, they can specifically have the power to use that as a center for people to go when a hurricane comes.
No, that's wonderful. But if it's an investment, then don't we want a return on investment? This is why I'm making the case. But let me finish. This is why I'm making the case that cities must have like a stake in these things. They must.
Does the city actually need to have a stake for people to use?
If you want the argument that it takes away from museums and stuff like that to not be like a strike against stadiums, then yeah, because then you are taking revenue away from cities if people are going to stadiums instead of museums.
Traveling to these cities to go to these dumbass museums. Anyways,
Dan already said that like they might decide to go to a sports game. Well, that would be in place of something else that they're doing to entertain.
Maybe if you're talking about local people, but one thing that like sports does very well is that like there are a lot of teams that like carry a fan base from place to place. So you get a lot of out of towners who come to a city to go to the sports team game that wouldn't go there otherwise. And another thing on top of this is like when they come from out of town, they might go to places like your local zoo or your local museum. So this actually could increase benefit for things like zoos and museums and stuff.
It's already covered.
You have the infrastructure for it.
Like they literally said, it's a lump of coal. It doesn't pay it for itself. Besides that, I also want to hit Dan.
Actually, I was responding just a second. Sorry. If you can pay for the infrastructure, those are all having people come in from out of town is great things. But if you don't have the infrastructure for transportation, if you don't have public washrooms for people to go to, or heaven forbid these people throw a riot, these can all be huge impacts on like urban living for the actual residents of your city at the time.
Yeah, I mean that's why I was reading a report today that found that there were no significant economic benefits that were brought to cities when a sports team moved in, given that it's just not the best.
Okay,
I mean, the thing is,
and that's the round. Okay,
time.
Nice. Yes. Great. Again, thank you all for being here. If you're just finding this channel, please hit the follow button and make sure the notification bell is on so you know I'm going live. All right. Once again, we are going to vote, right? We will vote. We will put 5 minutes on the clock, 5 minutes for you to actually get your votes in. No one cares about the votes that come in afterwards. All right. Thank you once again to my participants. The audience, you're going to be voting on which of these fine people gets to stay and go on to the next round. Whoever was the most interesting or funniest or beardiest or food poisoning-iest, whatever your criteria. The most irritated bowel, whoever it is, vote on that criteria. So that's
damn, that's some crazy voting regulations.
Like that. Look, I'm giving them freedom. They can vote however they want. Is all I'm saying.
Hell yeah,
I gotta
I'm all about freedom.
I gotta catch on this.
How irritated someone's bowel is.
Yeah, no. I have IBS and celiac disease. I win.
Okay. Well, there you go. Oh shit. And I'm sorry about that. That sucks.
I think you should vote for Ninetales just because of that.
Yeah. Well,
so vote for Ninetales, everybody.
Okay. Yeah, you heard it. What Biggs just said specifically, don't vote for Kill. That's what he said.
Yeah.
So
basically,
I'm gonna put the link in chat. Vote now. Don't bother vote later. Vote now. Vote right now. Okay. 5 minutes left on the clock. Vote right this second. All right. Great. And you all can talk for whatever.
I didn't mention I have. I need to mention though I have lactose intolerance as well.
Wow.
Now you're just pushing it.
Just a quick question. I don't think it was really relevant, so I didn't bring it up during the discussion. But who here actually knows who generally owns like sports stadiums?
I do.
Does anybody?
Like, what do you mean by generally owns? Like, who owns what stadium and how much? I mean, like
in general, do you know like when a sports stadium? Let's say I have a city, I want a sports stadium built. Like, do you know who like generally pays for it and who generally like owns said stadium after it's built?
I don't know who initially owns them, but I know sure as hell people can buy them, especially at like the professional level.
Yeah, the general manager of, I believe, the Dallas Cowboys is also the owner. So
yeah,
so he probably is
Dallas is like unique. Usually they're owned by like private companies.
Yeah, they're owned by subsidiaries.
Sometimes there's some like, for example, in my city, the team that owns our stadium is like Progressive, not necessarily like the insurance company. And so it's like random, and like the funding can come like widely differently from like sometimes it's like there are stadiums that have been 100% taxpayer funded, and there are also stadiums that have been 100% like private funding. Funding for stadiums is like such a weird thing because like different cities are completely different. Some cities
it's all about how they can negotiate with the cities usually. So if the cities are not willing to budge, then usually they find private funding. But if cities want to actually like kowtow to the owners and the financial groups that actually own the teams, then they'll make considerations to that.
3 minutes left on the clock. 3 minutes left on the clock. Vote right now. Vote right this second. Link is in the chat. Holy crap! Oh my god! What?
Don't forget, by the way,
I actually, yeah. Okay, I just want to say to Prime really quick. I do kind of need your sympathy on this one thing. I cannot keep my arm up for very long, so please try to remember that. Like, just because you saw me put my hand up last, I might have had my hand up before. So if you see my hand go down, it doesn't mean I don't want to talk anymore.
Yeah.
It seemed like you kept on thinking I was the last to raise my hand because I can't keep.
Sometimes I enrage people based on if they had a chance to talk before.
Okay, fair enough.
All I know about who owns the footy teams is that Russell Crowe owns the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and that's it.
And they suck.
I'm not making any case for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, okay?
I really have no idea, but I just thought like I needed to say that. If they're owned by Russell Crowe.
Matt Latin.
Oh God.
What?
Can we all talk about how no one cares about Australian football?
Oh, I care. I don't know anything about it, but I care, right?
I don't know.
I literally don't care about Australian football, so I ain't going to be defending it, okay?
He doesn't care about any. Did you not hear his rant? Did you not hear his rant about hating all sports ball?
True.
Like, he doesn't give a fuck about sports ball.
All right, hold on. I feel like I need to prepare for something here. Just give me. I'll be right back. I didn't get a trash bag. I'll be right back.
The answer is clearly that sports disc is based because it has extra degrees of freedom, and you have to spin it.
Hell yeah, disc craft.
Mad that left. I was gonna say we're gonna
what's
talk
the other
about
one?
sports. Chess is such a great sport. You know?
Nova. What's the Nova? What are the discs? What are the other discs? Ninetales. You know what the disc brands are? She's not listening.
No, she's talking to her chat. Okay. We have less than a minute left. Well, actually, just over a minute left. Please, everyone,
Hotkeys are all switched up.
vote right this moment. Hurry up, because we've seen it before. We've seen it before that people have voted late. And I will refresh, right? We will do a vote. Their person will be on the bottom. They'll get eliminated. I'll refresh just for shits and giggles to see what happens. And they would have qualified to stay, but you voted late. So don't do that. Hurry up and vote right this second, right?
So chat, I'm going to appeal to you really quickly.
Okay.
Mad Lad's going to get his equipment to shave his head because he thinks he's coming in first. Waste his time, vote for me so he doesn't get to shave his head after setting up.
Wow.
I should be this Thomas for getting first place in the last round, but I didn't want to be like unsporting, and now I kind of wish I was doing this for like getting first place in the last round and not like in the middle of the thing. But it's okay. I'm doing this for everybody. This is for all of you.
Okay.
The viewers here.
I appreciate the preparedness. It's very good. It's a good quality to have.
Well, can't have hair everywhere. It's
Right.
curly. It gets like, you know.
Yeah.
Are you going to wait until the end, or are you going to sit here and like debate
he's
while
gonna do
having
it
to
right
deal
when
with
it
like that
happens.
itchy shit?
I mean, I'm literally going to be sharing myself and then talking and then sharing some more. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
how we're doing.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Omni, you have some fans.
Are you going full bald, like shiny head bald?
I mean, as shiny as I can get with this thing.
Okay. The reason Mad Latin is preparing to shave his head is because Mad Latin is indeed #1. Trading places with Kyo-san. There we go. Mad Latin, like, you're closer to me, closer to God, closer to winning. So, thanks for being on Kyo-san. A trend is starting, I feel like, right? This might be the end for you. Only #2 this round. I don't know. Where could that lead? I feel like a pattern is forming here. I don't know. Thank you both. On the other end of things, well, there's not a tie. Well, yeah, there's not a tie that I have to worry about. So that's good. At the bottom, we have Top Dolphin. Oh man, staying exactly where he is. And then also Biggs. Oh, wow. Tied for the bottom. And joining them there is Dan the Stepper. Okay. All right. So we, the individuals, will beg on your knees, please, to Kyo-san and Mad Latin as to why they should keep you around. Dan the Step. Why should these two kings among kings keep you around?
Yeah, I have a lot more stuff to say for the later topics, and there'll be some parts that I will disagree with you or disagree with you, but for sure I would definitely think that if given the chance, probably I would be helping out your case in the long run, even if I'm not exactly as popular as either of your two guys.
Oh, okay. All right. Saying on Neek, so don't worry about it. All right, cool. Biggs, why should
I'm digging the shaving. I'm enthralled by the shaving right now.
Yeah, this young looking smooth face. Oh boy.
It's like a whole new man here.
Yeah.
I love it.
Okay. Yeah, why should they keep you around?
Can I ask you something real quick? Can I just add something so quick? Do you have a girlfriend or a partner or anything? Oh.
Yeah, I do.
Oh God, I hope you ask them first, because when my partner shaves, I hate it. I hate it.
Oh.
You should have just made it
This
short.
might be a surprise. Last time I had short hair, she's cool with it. My kids are gonna be pretty surprised. They're not gonna know what to do with it.
I think he's gonna look really good. I think you're gonna look really good.
I hope so.
How old
I think
are
you
your
will.
kids?
I think you're gonna look awesome.
I love how this
Every
is
time.
Like, I love how this is physically hurting Omni. I'm grabbing his hair. Yeah. How? Just quick question. How old are your kids?
No,
my kids are here. I'm just gonna pause real quick. My kids are 4 and 2. The 2-year-old has no idea what hair cutting is, so she's totally gonna freak. I'm gonna show her this bag of hair, and she's just gonna be like,
"They're not gonna recognize you."
Okay.
Yeah, my oldest will be cool with it. She'll wonder why, and I'll have to figure out how to explain like what
What
the memes and the views on Twitch memes. But we'll figure that out.
So let's go to Biggs. Yeah. Why should you?
Yeah. So I think that I know we had a little bit of a spat there, Mad Latin. But I think that I have some good takes coming up, and I think that we can have some witty banter. Kyosan, I love Aussie football. I love everything Australian. I know you don't like any type of sports ball, but I think if you give it a chance, you might like it. You know, you said you played it, so I respect that. And I think that I can provide some good content for Prime. And I also want to say, I want to say everybody that's here needs to subscribe to Prime right now. Prime is amazing. He does a great job. He has panels literally every day but Sunday. It's awesome. He provides a place for people to get their voices heard. And that's what's important here, everybody. I think we need to all get our voices heard. The walk-on panels are amazing. You get like people from all over, all different walks of life. So it's just awesome. Thanks, Prime, for having me on. If I get eliminated, I appreciate it. You're great. Everybody on here is amazing. I love you guys.
Okay, hardcore fishing for a veto. That's an interesting strategy. All right, moving on. So, top dolphin. All right, give it another crack. Why should kill? And the newly shorn Mad Latin keep you around.
I think it's pretty obvious who the correct choice is. You want to keep the guy around who's going to have some good conversation, but isn't going to take votes from you, and that's me. Okay. Especially the next topic. Actually, I don't know if I'll be good for the next topic because we'll probably agree. Because if Madeline, if we disagree on the next topic, you're a terrible human being. But other than that, like
not begging to me. What? What is that?
But I think you're a little bit smarter than that.
I love you and respect you because you're awesome.
I mean, I do love you and respect you. That's why I don't think it's gonna happen. But if it did, that would be really problematic.
You play chess. That's helping you here.
Kill.
Yeah, I mean, I do play. I play all the time, every day at work.
Yeah, you even mentioned your ELO. That was really good.
Okay.
Grinding puzzles, almost 1300.
Okay, all right. So we gotta move this along. Kill Mad Latin. Send me a name, please.
Oh, yep, got it. Hold on.
Wait, Biggs, how much do you know about rugby, like rugby union or whatever it is, like union code?
I don't know a ton about Aussie rules specific. My stepdad was Welsh, so he taught me quite a bit. He bought me a Puma.
Union? Okay, yeah.
He bought me a Puma rugby ball when I was a kid, so I kicked that around my backyard all the time. But like, I honestly, to be honest, I actually prefer Premier League and soccer over rugby. But I'll just be honest with you.
So I used to play prop. I'm 166 centimeters tall.
Okay.
So props are for the people who don't know. Yep. You've got like a ruck in rugby, right? And it's usually like a three people will head to shoulder each other, and they'll be like three in like a triangle, and they'll push against each other, right? So the people at the front are usually really fucking tall, so they've got the long legs that they can push really hard. I'm just a nugget with massive legs, so they put me at prop because I can push pretty good.
So you're all legs is what you're saying?
Yeah. Because I grew up like drumming early, so like my calf muscles are like immaculate, and the rest of me is like falling apart.
Well, I think your camera's in the wrong spot. Then you need to show off those sexy calves.
Yeah. All right. Look, I'll take those views any way I can get them. All right. So the vote is in, right? And I certainly don't want to reveal who voted for who. But Dan, you got 2 votes. So Dan the step.
Jeez,
I am a threat. I'm definitely a threat to them. But yeah, I mean, thanks for the opportunity,
Dan,
guys.
You competed hard, Dan. You actually did a really good job competing, so you should be proud of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, they obviously don't want to be beaten by me, so
obviously
I'm glad that they find me as a threat to their whole thing, trying to win the whole entire game. So
game recognizes game. All right. So anyway, let's go.
Do I have to pick a guy?
Yes, you get to pick either Biggs or Top Dolphin. Which of these individuals will be following you out the door?
I think I'll take Biggs because I think Top Dolphin has some sports stuff to say.
Okay. All right.
Sadly, I'm sorry, Biggs. You were great.
It's all right. I appreciate it.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So
so I saved you, Top Dolphin. You owe me.
All right. He'll come to collect, and that'll be your firstborn child. All right. Dan the step. Final words to the channel.
YOLO. Mad Lad, that is freaking crazy that you did that just for the views.
You're looking good, man.
Well,
I
thank
cannot
you.
do that for the sake of my own
You should.
vanity, but congratulations on your new haircut. So, and thank you for everyone who was able to do with me. And last for me, Omni, you do have some fans, so you might be upcoming like right-leaning streamer in the future. So good luck with you with that too.
Okay.
You should have kept the beard, Mad Lad. Now you're gonna look like a
right-wing.
You
scrotum.
You look a scrotum.
I'm not generally
that's
right
mean.
wing. Like,
you,
I would have voted for Biden. Like,
he's a centrist. He's a centrist. Okay, moving on. Next, this elimination round is,
I have a lot.
oh my god, this elimination round will take it forever. We can figure it out later. Okay, great, thanks. All right. Next, no problem. Next we have Biggs. Biggs, please, last words to the audience.
All right. Well, thank you, Prime, for having me on. I thought I performed well. Again, everybody subscribe to Prime. He's awesome. He provides a great service to the community in general. Having these panels, having the open panels, I think it's great for the community overall. Thank you, Mad Laden, Kyosin, Omni, Ninetails, Top Dolphin, Dan, and everybody else that was on here earlier. I appreciate all of you. I got in most of you guys' channels and as you guys follow. I stream at Biggs8500. You can find me on Twitter at Biggs8500. Hit me up with a follow. I'd love it. Thank you again for having me on here. Hopefully I'll be on more panels in the future. And I appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, Biggs.
Yes.
You know when you begged me for veto?
Yeah.
You didn't get it. All right, bye.
That's all right. I love you.
I knew it.
I'm just gonna say it's pretty sad that the parent is leaving the next topic.
That's okay.
There's
okay.
other parents there. All right, talk to you later, buddy. Good one. Oh man, that was really mean. I'm sorry.
It was his parent. I feel bad.
Okay. All right.
Content. Never feel bad.
We are moving on. All right. Next topic. Should parents be shamed for spanking their kids? 25 minutes left on the clock. Go at it.
I don't know why we justify assault just because someone's under the age of 18.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, like parents should obviously be ashamed for beating kids. Like, this seems like a no-brainer. Spanking does not have long-term positive outcomes. It's bad to beat the crap out of children when there are no benefits. This seems like...
Are you a parent?
Yeah,
are you a parent,
so for the people who don't know the data, Gershoff has got it down. I'll post it in the chat.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so other things that get altered are social functioning later on, higher instances of ADHD, and also problems with being overly sexually aggressive. Basically, if you want your child to function and develop properly, then you don't beat them. It's that simple. And it's only something that like parents do when they don't know how to parent their kids properly. It's that simple. And I just want to point out, it disgusts me that like in the 90s, or sorry, like prior to the 90s, there was like some wave of like parenting that was supposed to be like, oh, well, I spank my kids. I don't hit them across the face. That's supposed to be better. Parents have never known what's good for their kids, okay? They're not developmental psychologists. And I don't want to hear that parents know what's best for the kids. They know what's best for the individuality of their child to a degree, to an extent, a very limited extent, because many of them still don't know about their gender and stuff like that and have to be taught about transgenderism first before they can accept them. But I'm sure like a parent knows their own child better than anybody else.
So like I mentioned before, like even outside of the empirical evidence, which is incredibly heavy, Gershoff has done a fantastic job consistently of fighting back against this bullshit. I don't know why we justify assault against people just because they're under a certain age threshold. I think it's disgusting.
So I want to get in on this.
Yeah,
because like, all right, so like this is a very complicated topic. On my end as a parent, I do not spank my kids. I don't think spanking kids is.
Yeah, of course you say that for the camera.
Okay, well, fair enough. But like, no, like seriously, like, and I had like a really hard, long and hard thought about this because like, so when I was a kid, spanking was an occasional thing. Every time I did something that was dangerous and life-threatening, that was a spanking. So if I ended up playing with electricity or doing something really dumb with electricity, I think this came up last time I was on a panel, that was a spanking. So like I've definitely been in situations where my kid is not responding to any of the parenting skills that I have. They're literally laughing in my face when I use any of my disciplinary techniques, and they are like kind of forcing me to have to resort to more of a harsh tactic. But I don't think spanking is necessary, at least in my family. I have a viewer who's talking about being in a situation where their child is like on the. So I'm trying to figure out how to like talk about this because I don't know how
on the spectrum. I think that's reasonable.
Right. So like they have they are the actual parent of someone who is on the spectrum, and the negative reinforcement is actually like required. There's no other way to do it, and I don't know how.
Okay, so what
I don't know enough about this topic to say what to think, but I do want to kind of broaden the topic so we're not all just like shaming folks who are at like their last resort. Like I don't think shaming parents is a good thing because like it takes all kinds.
I think shame's perfectly fine. So
Yeah,
I'll be perfectly clear, right? Shame is a really good motivator for what other people think. For what we understand of spanking and the way that it motivates kids. I'm going to use an analogy here because I feel like it's a really good one that anyone who's had a pet can really sympathize with. And a lot of people who have like people don't generally like hit their pets. It's like children are pets. It's not a one-to-one analogy, but with someone who you're having trouble with communicating, right? I think it works really well. Anyone who's had cats. There used to be like a thing where people would have spray bottles and they would spray their cats with water, right? Which isn't necessarily assault. The cats just don't like it. And I'm only saying it because I got my cat in front of me, so it's a good, But with that being said, so you got like a cat who will like jump on top of a counter, and you have no way to communicate with that cat. You can't argue with them or talk to them like a human being, especially like you with a kid. Like the best way generally to parent, and I'm sure you already know this, Mad Lad, is kids are really fucking smart. And if you talk to them about what they're doing wrong and explain why it's wrong, like most times kids will be like, oh, okay, sweet. Because kids are really reasonable, and what you want to do is give them a reason why not to do something. Because if you just tell them it's bad, they'll just do it anyway when you're not looking. And this is the same thing with the cats. If you just spray them with the water when they jump on the bench, what's going to happen is if you set up a camera, they're going to wait for you to go out the door and they're going to get up on that bench again, right? Like all it does is make them want to avoid punishment. It doesn't give them the tools that they need to understand why what they're doing is wrong and avoid that thing in the future, which is, as a parent, what you want to generally ideally do. Now, I'm not
all that. Yeah. I agree with all of that, but what we're talking about, so my viewer is letting me just talk about the whole situation now. I just want to make sure it was cool. So we've got someone who's nonverbal autistic who does not so you can't communicate in a specific way. And the point is that you don't do it for everything. It's for life-threatening situations where since there's no chance for communication and there's no other way of addressing the issue, what do you do? And I don't know enough about this topic, and I don't know what alternatives you guys would suggest. I'm just putting this out there because I think this is a very important. I think this would be maybe an exception to the rule. I don't know.
Yeah, so as someone who's lived in group homes and was put in positions constantly where I was being physically restrained for my behavior and stuff, some of which was threatening, some of which was not. I definitely think restraining has its necessities because I've seen situations where kids just cannot be reasoned with and they're a threat to the people around them. That being said, as far as shaming goes, I don't think we, I don't think we, I do want to point out that being restrained did have serious impacts on me. I have CPTSD now. So if parents are just restraining kids to have control over them and not because they're doing something life-threatening, that's when we need to shame them. What we do shame parents for currently is not having control over their kids. We shame mothers for not having a father. We already shame parents for a bunch of things that are wrong. And specifically, when we shame parents for not having control over their kids, this is what incentivizes them to beat their kids whenever they don't have control. I think society can also help make this easier for parents by addressing the way society looks at parents and what we expect of parents too.
Omni.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Mad Lad's general plea as to why shame is bad is obviously absurd. I mean, you know, there might be certain cases in which spanking is permissible, but I mean, the idea that we shouldn't shame people for doing bad things. I mean, we shame murderers, we shame child.
Let's not mischaracterize what I was saying. I'm not saying that you don't shame people for doing bad things. I'm saying that shaming parents, generally speaking, is something that the public is very willing to do, and we should do a lot less of it. Because, like, if someone's yelling at their kids at the grocery store, we don't know what the background is. We don't know what happened. We don't know what they've been struggling with. And I think it's unfair for everybody to, you know, get on their high horse, look at this parent who's like struggling busing, and say, "Oh, you're a bad parent," blah 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 blah. You don't know.
Yeah, the reason is because in that context, we don't know if the action is good or bad. But in the context of spanking, we have it's seemingly considerable evidence that says that spanking is detrimental to the long-term outcomes of kids. And kids, obviously, it causes them large amounts of harm when they are spanked. So even if we had no evidence in terms of whether it had long-term harms or benefits, our presumption would be strongly that you shouldn't spank people. And then we have very good evidence that it's really bad for people in the long term. So shaming people would deter this abusive behavior. And shaming people is a desirable thing that we should do. Similarly to how we shame other.
I have a question.
I just want to
shame Omni. Why should we shame people? Like, what's the goal behind like shaming people?
Disincentivization.
I mean, if shame as a deterrence mechanism, we shame. I mean, do you think that we should shame people for being like murderers or like committing hate crimes?
I mean, no. We should obviously say that these are things that people shouldn't do, but like shaming people just doesn't seem to work as a way to deter people from continuing to do behaviors. Like, if we want parents to stop beating kids, it doesn't seem like shaming parents is going to stop them from beating kids. The same way, if we want people to stop murdering, it doesn't seem like shaming.
Do we agree that should be an action? So we would agree that things that are normalized are generally things that people are going to do more often, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what we want to do is make this a behavior. If you want to call it shame or whatever you want to do, the way you want to go about it, what you want is to make sure this is a behavior that we as a society understand isn't necessarily good. What you want to do is create that, create an association of that behavior with something outside of the normal society, something that's bad, right? There's a reason why we don't go around like hitting people on the street that we disagree with every day, that like sometimes parents do with kids. Right, they have a disagreement with their kids. Sometimes they fucking hit them. Right, like we should have some way. Maybe you don't think it's shame, but I think I remember. I'd have to go back through my papers. I don't want to make necessarily empirical claims that I don't have studies for on hand, but I'll show you what I can find. That like shame is actually a pretty strong motivator, especially societally. I'll see what I can find for you. But what we want is to make sure that this behavior isn't normalized. That this isn't a normal thing to do.
Go ahead, Nighthawk.
I both want to push back on what Keo said earlier, but you're not necessarily wrong. I don't think the issue is that we're more okay with violence against minors. I don't think we are as a society. What we are okay with is assuming that they have less bodily autonomy for some reason. And this is like what I think people, the assumption people make that is really disgusting. Secondly, I do think if we could find a way to do intervention rather than shaming, then the need for shaming disappears. Doesn't mean we can't do it. I don't think that shaming parents for being bad parents is illogical, really. But the intervention is key. And I feel like if my mom had like a professional, well-studied type of intervention when she was struggling with me as a child, because I had behavioral issues, she had mental health problems, then I might not have been sent to a home, or at least not as early as I was, which would have saved me so much trauma and like maladjustment throughout my life.
Yeah, I mean, we need to give people alternatives, right, to like the acts that they're engaging in, right? So like if spanking is bad, we should be offering alternatives to the specific situations so that folks don't engage in it. I don't think shaming as a tool in of itself actually does a lot of work. I think it exacerbates a lot of situations. Folks will actually try to cover up their behaviors because they don't want to be shamed. And I think that the fear of shame might actually cause folks to get angry and direct that anger towards into that behavior that you're shaming them for in the first place.
I agree with you, actually. I think that
one thing that shaming does is it a lot of times if like a group shames an individual, instead of like preventing a bad behavior from happening, what'll happen is that individual will like retreat from the group. so these people become like outcasts rather than like actually conforming and like being a part of the group because they're shamed for it. So there's like a lot more effective ways to like stop parents from spanking than shaming.
No, this isn't true at all. Conformity is like absolutely a very incredibly strong motivator for people.
Yeah, what about domestic abuse? What about domestic abuse situations though, where people literally just like isolate their abuse victim from the world so that way they can't talk about it anymore? People isolate themselves when there are certain consequences for their actions. And I think Children's Aid fucked up here in Canada, because that's like our child protection service. They fucked up when they like created a program that people could go to if they're struggling with their kids, but at the same time didn't like explicitly say that like it's okay to struggle with feeling like you want to hit your child, because then anybody who was doing that didn't feel like they can go to the program and express those feelings without Children's Aid taking their child the next day.
I feel like domestic abuse is probably like a really interesting thing to point out when we're talking about these things, because domestic abuse, attitudes towards domestic abuse is one of the things that was absolutely changed over time, that at a societal level has absolutely been shamed. And I don't think anyone else would call what we call domestic abusers now anything other than shameful. And domestic abuse rates, this isn't causal, this is pretty correlative, but domestic abuse rates have dropped significantly over time.
Yeah, but that could also be reporting, right? Like, first of all, like
if it was reporting, it'd go up because you'd be creating like more of a societal.
No. For like, what I'm saying is like, first, like people are more likely to hide it now, because let's say like you and your partner get in an argument, you're gonna keep that argument inside instead of letting your neighbors hear, because now your neighbors accept that it's unacceptable and they're gonna call the cops on you. I know this for a fact from past experiences, unfortunately.
Do you think this is the case with all domestic abuse cases, or do you think this is the case of the outliers?
Very typical. I think it's very typical that
you think this is the.
Do you think
abusers get motivated to hide their abuse? Yes.
Do you think people before didn't hide their abuse?
Well, it depends on how bad the abuse
was. It was normalized.
Right. So it was normalized. So we went from normalized to non-normalized, and this cashed out in them being reported less.
Oh, I think I used the wrong phrasing there. I should.
I'm sure as shit that if you asked, like, if you took like an average percentage of people who were being hit by their partners, like 50 years ago to now, that number's going to be significantly lower. Especially in like Russia, where you can make like a case study. So you can make like a comparative case study to Russia, where it's normalized to the point where it's legal, and you have like women, like 1 in 4 women being like killed by their husbands or something, right? Like. This absolutely isn't a reporting problem. This is the numbers going down.
Yeah, I think there's like a big difference between like shaming individuals and like creating an atmosphere, or like showing like a habit or like an action as like bad. So like a really good example I think might be like smoking, for example. So like smoking has gone down like significantly over the last like 20 or 30 years. But like it's not because we went around to smokers and we're like, you're all like terrible bad people for smoking. It's because generally we educated people on how smoking is bad, and we talked about how the act of smoking was bad, not how like all the people who smoke are bad. So I guess like maybe
that's something that also happens.
That's something that also
happens, right? That most people say it's disgusting, right?
I didn't mean to say reporting. I meant like a feedback bias, where like now people are just hiding what they're doing.
I know what you're talking about. What I'm arguing is this would be like the outside point, right? That if we compare them to cases that have it more normalized currently, that you can actually see it demonstrated where the cases are just up.
Well, I mean, I think you could actually look at the residual. It's like the residual folks who are left over, who are still abusive in a sense, like that percentage of culture that still does it, and like what they're resorting to maintain their.
That was part of the point.
Well, let's go to let's go to Omni.
For Madland, Ninetails, and Top Dolphin, is your view that we should not shame domestic abusers? I mean, that seems asinine.
I mean, it seems asinine when you phrase it like that, but if shaming domestic abusers doesn't stop domestic abusers from abusing, then like that would be asinine to shame them then, right?
Yeah, and there's like shaming is not like a true consequence. Like a true consequence is the legal system. A true consequence is like intervention. Shaming is a socially reinforced consequence. There's no metric to which it is applied. It can be over applied. It can be under applied. Look at the whole thing about cancel culture. It's just not a stable way.
I mean, you can't find like quantitative stuff, but you can absolutely find qualitative evidence that shows that shaming is effective. Like if you like, this is what I'm saying is like this.
Shaming at first can be effective, fine, but like. in a situation where shaming has been used in a society for X number of years, at a certain point you need to use other resources to.
I mean, education's good.
Right, like
education is great and preferable, right?
etc. Yeah. I'm just
saying
saying
that we shouldn't do these things alongside them is like we shouldn't shame victims, but we absolutely shame abusers, right? Like, because
it would be wrong
like
to
a good
do
example
that.
would be like cigarettes again, because you've got like vapors and cigarettes where like you've taught people in school like it's not good to inhale things, right? And cigarettes as they are have become like something that like society finds disgusting, so now people just switch to vapes. Like people don't like the smell of cigarette smoke, people don't like being around smokers, so people just like switch to vape as part of like a social issue.
So as someone who's been shamed for smoking when I was in college, like I actually had this happen. It didn't stop me from smoking, right? Like that's not what did it.
We don't talk about like individual, we talk about like at a quantitative level.
All right, fine, but
my
point is, as an individual, that what I ended up having happen to me is a bad experience that I still reflect on, like, a decade later, and it's like a dumb thing to reflect on. I don't care about the fact that some random stranger like shamed me, and I guess I do, but I don't want to care about the fact that a random stranger shamed me a decade ago. I don't smoke now. I don't think the shaming helped. In fact, it made a situation.
It's not about you. It's not about some random stranger. It's about people close to you saying, like, I don't want to. Like, can you go outside? I don't want to be around you when you're smoking. Like, smoking, it's gross. And then people close to you, because what the threat here is, what the actionable threat here is you being pushed out of your community, right? Like that most people feel like they wouldn't. Like people don't.
So like.
Pardon?
Smoke.
That's just really archaic. So I want to know, how do you plan to proportionally apply this so that way some abusers who are, like, say a trans abuser comes out, doesn't receive a huge amount of shame because also transphobes are just motivated to shame them more, whereas somebody who's a cishet white dude who's abusive gets a little bit less attention because I don't really think of that.
It's not about this overwhelming like shit of strangers. People don't care about strangers' opinions for the most part. It's about like.
No, but I'm asking how do we
close to them?
How do we apply this properly instead of just like, because you have to account for the fact that, like, let's say I get accused of rape. Even I didn't do it, but because I don't want to say that I did because that feels very culpable. But let's say I get accused of it. People are more likely to shame me just because I'm trans and they're transphobic. I'm sorry, that's just the way the world works right now. I don't think that this can be applied evenly or fairly at all.
So we just shouldn't do it at all. We shouldn't shame any people.
We should avoid it. We should avoid it and go for more like reliable methods of addressing these issues.
What reliable methods do you propose to address the issues?
And these aren't perfect either, but they're certainly less like left to entropy. We have like the justice system. We have like actual means of intervention.
Omni, give it a try.
Whatever works better is the answer.
Omni, give it a try.
Time when the justice system is able to effectively criminalize something that is causing mass backlash is when societal stigma has built up to a significant degree such that the society is okay with the justice system criminalizing it. So right now, most people would not be okay with criminalizing spanking because a large portion of Americans criminalize spanking. Only when we build up shame around spanking will there be tolerance for making it illegal.
Yeah, what you're talking about is cultural approval. What I'm talking about is cultural backlash, when people actively respond to things as a group. When people actively respond to things as a group, we have no control over this process, and therefore somebody could receive a disproportionate amount of shame due to factors that have nothing to do with what they did. That's the issue to me.
So I find this like the idea that we should never shame anyone for anything. This is like the
That's
position.
Not what
right?
I said. That's not what I said. I said it's not
so what's
optimal.
The defining difference between these things?
Listen. I said it's not optimal compared to things that have predictable outcomes or at least predictable consequences for people's actions.
Right. We can
chew and walk at the same time. We're not bad. We're not dumb people. It's fine to have like good educational resource at the same time while understanding it like a societal level. It's probably not the worst idea. Don't hit your fucking kids. It's gross.
I'm saying if you want society to be fair and for trans people for me not to be targeted, don't leave it up to mob justice.
But that's like everything. That's literally the point you brought up before, like about like people being accused of rape. The implication there seems that we shouldn't shame rapists. Like
no. My God, is don't put.
So we should.
No, we avoid it. And for instance,
we shouldn't.
No,
it's either should or shouldn't. There is
no,
no in between.
let me finish. For instance, Twitter should not condone mass harassment campaigns of somebody who's just been accused of something. Well, I agree that that might be satisfying to think of. First of all, this person isn't even guilty yet, and I definitely don't trust people to wait for that verdict before they start doing this stuff. And secondly, even if they are guilty, I want that consequence to be proportionate to what other people face for the same crime, not based on superficial critiques that like a bunch of people have, maybe because it's a racist city or something.
Okay, so here's a good this isn't even a hypothetical. This is a real life example that's occurred to me recently. Someone I used to know just got convicted of rape. Should I call them a disgusting human being because they're a disgusting human being?
What you do on a personal level is fine. What I'm talking about is a social level. On a social level, let me finish. On a social level, if everyone called them that, but it turns out that the real issue is this person had a terrible history and had little to no self-control, I don't think that's going to help them get the self-control that they're lacking.
So I shouldn't shame them.
I'm saying that if it's better when it's avoided and left to more controlled consequences.
I mean, are they in jail?
They're in jail, yeah.
Okay, so like
6 years.
So they're convicted. They're in jail.
I agree with that.
Like, I mean, that seems reasonable and fine. The thing is, so
it's perfectly fine to shame people who do the wrong thing. Yeah.
No,
because just because something feels good doesn't that mean that it's like morally good? Like you can say that like oh, I want to shame this person, but like what's the point of shaming them? And like generally as society, when we want to create like moral rules, we want to like prevent like bad or like immoral things from happening.
I'm glad we agree, Todd Dolphin, because I don't think we should justify assault just because someone's young.
I don't want to.
I 100% agree with you. So my question is, so like I would say we don't like shame these people. So like I guess the onus would be on you to prove that like shaming is an effective way to prevent like negative behaviors.
Oh, and to be clear, by the way, just to clarify here, Madlad, the point that you mentioned before, like I know I'm using a hyperbolic language over the top, right? About the instance you mentioned before where it was like restraint for like people who like don't have like full bodily like proper control over their bodies sometimes, perfectly fine, right? Especially if it's like necessary to stop the harming of other people. And that person isn't being harmed necessarily, because obviously like restriction of movement, we would agree is some level of harm. But like if there's instances where you got like neuroatypical people who are in situations that they can't control themselves properly, and may have like some exterior force necessary to control, I wouldn't be talking about that instance, right? What would be worse is if you do have like autistic kids at some level, certain levels can be really difficult to talk to, right? And can be really difficult to like discipline. And I think I remember reading somewhere that autistic kids are more likely to be spanked. And that's something that we want to avoid as a society.
Right. I agree with that. I also want to point out, though, that shaming folks, generally speaking, isn't for the benefit of society. A lot of it for the individual is a matter of getting attention and drawing attention to yourself and say, hey, look, I can shame this person because they're a shitty person. So like, I don't think that
makes in the attention economy, maybe, but if we're talking about like 1980s, like talking to someone close, sorry.
Done. That's the round. Okay, great.
Oh.
So thank you all so much. Again, if you're just finding this channel, hit that follow button. Make sure notifications are on because I give you this content all the time.
I knew that'd be a heated subject, but wow.
That's for her audience. That wasn't for us. So anyway, thank you.
Mad Lad, are you using OBS?
Yep.
Can you like put your head down and then right click the screen, and there should be a take screenshot function, and you'll be able to see the little bits that you missed.
Oh, you're a genius! Why did I do this? Holy crap!
Yeah.
I can take a screenshot. You're a genius. Hold on. Brilliant.
There's not many. There's like one on the left, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, you did a pretty good job, man.
Yeah, actually pretty good. All right. Anyway, so we are going
just
to
in the back of my head
vote. We are going to vote right now for who gets to the final round. Okay, so the next round is the last round. So which one of these individuals are going to make it to the final round? That's up to you, to your audience members. I'm going to put a poll in the chat. You will vote in that poll. You'll have 5 minutes to vote in that poll, not 6 minutes to vote in that poll. So vote in the poll now rather than later. Please, it's really that simple. But people keep failing at this one task. All right. So I'm going to throw that link in the chat right this second. Everyone vote right now. Vote for whoever is the most interesting or fun or whatever it is, right? Vote for that person to keep them into the next round. All right, here we go. All right. And expanding a bunch of times. 5 minutes left on the clock. Let's talk about Mad Latin. And I'm kind of sad because you have really nice hair. You're really beautiful hair, buddy. And
thank you.
It's all gone.
I was thinking about auctioning it off. Like doing like a thing where if you are a sub or something, I'll mail you my hair. But I don't know.
So I could toss it in the garbage for you. Oh, okay, great.
Right. Well, no, maybe you want to build like a Mad Latin shrine. Just like have a little me in your closet. I'm not gonna judge. It's fine.
I'll also need some toenails and some skin flakes and
don't make a voodoo doll, right? Like don't curse me. I don't know if magic is a thing, but if it is, that'd be a problem.
This is like gamer girl bathwater levels of degeneracy.
It really is. Oh, wait, we should do a hot tub stream queen competition.
I've unironically thought about doing. I want to do a charity fundraiser. I think this week, for Lifeline, which is an Australian charity that like deals with like people who need to call like someone to talk about like a mental issue if they're having one when there's no one else to talk to. And as a part of that, I was thinking of getting a hot tub this week and doing a hot tub stream to help raise money for Lifeline, along with doing some stretch goals like eating spicy food.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Although you can rent hot tubs, by the way, it's a lot cheaper that way.
Well, can't you just get like a kiddie pool and just hang out in the kiddie pool? Isn't that like?
I wonder how much a kiddie pool is. I'm gonna hit Kmart
There's no
right
fun
now.
in that. You want an actual hot tub.
Super cheap.
You can actually get it for free. Like just join your local like Facebook Buy Nothing group or whatever, or not Facebook if you don't like Facebook. Up to you guys.
I mean, it's summer. Oh, in the States, it's summer. Show up at some local kids. Pool party, a grown man in boxers.
It is 6 degrees outside today. Okay, that's Celsius using real numbers.
Yeah.
0 degrees is the point at which water freezes. It is 6 degrees outside today.
Oh, wow.
So
imagine having it be winter in June.
Dude, winter is like the best season. If I had enough money, if I had rich, right, I'd have a house in the US so that I could just fly between like America for Christmas and then come home for like the middle of the year and just work from wherever and just be in an eternal winter, and I'd just be eternally happy. I hate summer so much. It's the worst season by far.
Really?
I don't know what Australian summer's like, but I would prefer to be in summer warm weather. Fuck the snow. Snow is horrible.
Yeah. Fuck.
Dude, the summer here is
garbage.
like it's swampy. It's just swampy. 28 degrees feels like 50. It's fucked.
Oh yeah, okay, so I'll give you that. I've talked to Australians before, and they've told me it's extremely humid heat, and I'm not down with that. I went to I went to Seoul and Seoul, South Korea, and during the summer, and holy crap, was that fucking humid! Unbelievable.
You went to fucking Korea?
What Keo just described is the same as Ontario, by the way.
I'll tell you what.
Fuck?
And Iran.
And Barcelona, and just Barcelona as well. I remember both of those places. I would step outside, and then my back would immediately become a slip and slide. It was terrible. I hated it. So I'm done.
Where in the world is PrimeCayes San Diego? What the fuck?
I travel lots of places. I'll tell you about that sometime. After you all vote, we have 90 seconds left on the clock. Vote right now.
Also, Keo-san, 6 degrees isn't even that cold. Man up, man. Come on.
6 degrees Fahrenheit? What are you talking about?
6
Man
degrees
up. Are we
Celsius.
talking about masculinity
I'm talking about 6 degrees Celsius, right? I'm speaking your dumb language, okay?
Yeah, it's like that's 6 degrees away from freezing water.
Yeah, that's not even that bad.
When I was in
Shit,
Iran,
is that like cold for you guys? Are you like putting on your winter coats?
where are you from again?
Like,
I mean, like
Jesus
right now,
Christ.
I'm like wearing like a shirt, but the benefit of being on camera is I can wear my tracky dacks, and you guys just don't have any fucking idea, right? Like,
Tracky.
so I'm looking good on the top half, but this bottom half ain't nothing.
Oh man. I don't have pants on. Mad Latin. Go ahead. You were trying to say something. Iran.
Yeah, I was gonna say the heat in Iran is mostly dry, so it's like that awesome perfect heat, except it gets so hot that you actually have to take naps in the afternoon.
Okay.
So like noon to 4, you're not going outside whatsoever. You're just taking a nap, and then you get to play in the late evening.
Yeah, no, Ontario's exactly what Keo described, and I've heard it's like that in Florida too. So that's not unique. It's just different from the West Coast, really.
Wait, what?
Yeah, no, like I know what he's talking about, where it feels like a swamp, like you literally can feel your clothes sticking to you because it's
Yeah, oh yeah, like humid heat isn't like a Australian thing. Just the amount of humidity we see over here is like nothing compared to like Australian Sea because they're like completely surrounded by water.
Oh, I'm around the Great Lakes. It's just as bad here.
I am too. It's nowhere near as bad, I can tell you.
Wait, chat, I know you're not voting. Go out and fucking vote. Holy shit. What is going on? This feels like 2000. This feels like 2012. This is like 2012 American, right? Like, I'm going to force Prime. We need to come together to enforce mandatory voting in your chat.
Yeah,
we
absolutely need to. Guys, you don't vote and then you like get all butthurt when the person you want to stay doesn't stay. Well, you gotta vote. Like
imagine making that request 90 seconds after Prime said 90 seconds left.
Summer.
Oh my God, Ninetales, are you talking to us or the chat?
Yeah. By the way, mean humidity in Australia is 65% during the summer. Here, it's probably about 80.
Okay. But you guys, the margins of winning is actually quite slim. So if you vote, it actually really matters. So fucking vote. Any which way, it's too late this time. Fucking vote for these people. All right. They're putting in some good work here. All right. So all right, next. Oh man, what did I say? All right, Mad Lad at the top. Number 1, where he stands. It must be that bald head. It's like people love it, right? The ladies love the shave. All right.
Yeah, what a sellout.
Next to him, right? Next to him at the very top, right? We are gonna put Omni. There you go, Omni. Oh, there you go, right here. And Kyo-san. Number 3, didn't I? I feel like I mentioned this. I mentioned a pattern was forming.
I don't know what the fuck. I feel like that round I actually did like pretty decent. I thought I'd be like at least second. I get like Mad Lad fucking getting the votes for like shaving his head. Look, what's going on?
Look.
I don't get what your chat wants. Maybe I should like raise my voice more and scream like in the first round.
Can't hear people who aren't in the winner's circle. Okay, so
thing is, I think you were very polarizing in the first round because you were like, adding spice to the conversation, and so people who want, and so like I think you were, a lot of people's first choice, and so you did well. But people are increasingly not wanting the spice in later rounds.
Maybe you should shave your beard and prove
if
that
you want to talk about like people posting data, I actually posted the Gershoff study with 160,000 kids.
Okay.
What the fuck?
All right.
I posted the most definitive evidence on child spanking that's available right now.
A lot of crying from the losers, bro. There.
You're fucking hearing crying,
Anyway.
Crying's reasonable sometimes, Prime. Let's not shame people for expressing their emotions.
No, it's fine. You can. I mean, people who've lost miserably, I think, I should be able to express their emotions, right? Let it all out, right? So next, we are at the bottom. We have Top Dolphin, followed by Ninetales. Okay, you two, right? You will be begging. You will be on your knees, right? Pleading up to His Eminence, right? With the with the newly shiny head, right? Matt Latin, you'll be pleading to him, and he'll be the only one voting, because one of you will be heading out. So
now everybody's gonna know. Oh, disaster! All right,
yeah, it's only you. All right. So Top Dolphin, why should you stay?
Taking notes.
Why should I stay? Well, I just want to say, Mad Latin, as a man who has cut his own hair time and time again, you did such a great job. I don't know how. Are you like? Have you done this before? Like a lot? Cause you went right through that shit.
I grew up. This pair of clippers actually was given to me a decade ago by Da, and I've been not shaved my head. I've been giving myself a haircut ever since. The head shaving is a newer experience. I tried it once before, a long time ago, and I'm getting
for a second time. That was amazing, bro. I gotta tell you, I've done it many times. Still don't do that well.
Okay.
And Omni, you should definitely vote for me. You had some really good takes in that last round.
Omni is not involved in this. It's only.
It's just Mad Lad.
It's just Mad Lad.
Cool.
Yeah. Sorry about that. All right, next 9.
One compliment. Got it.
Ninetales.
I refuse to degrade myself this way. This is beneath me. There are no goddesses on this chat for me to worship. There are no non-binary royalty figures. Everyone here is pretty cis by the looks of it. So I'm reverent to none of you.
Okay, all right. Well,
also, I'm gonna beat you if you keep me. So just get rid of me, please.
I just know you've examined no genitals. You have no idea. I feel like you're just making judgment calls there. But okay, sure, all right. Okay.
I gotta say, like, the gumption though is like so good. Like, how do you say no to someone who bows down to no one?
Okay.
Oh man.
Okay. I'm Mad Latin. My DMs are open. Desperately
Yeah.
waiting for you. Right.
All right. Let's see.
Oh boy.
I know I
So exciting.
should do. I know. Gonna go against all my.
He's exactly the type of person who would narrate his decision making.
No, I'm telling you, go for the person. Dolphin will make sure you have more votes. He even said it himself. I agree with Dolphin. Vote Dolphin because he's right.
This is like a competitive thing. You're trying to make me feel like I need to accept this challenge or something. Is that what this is? This is reverse psychology? Because it's kind of working, but like on the other hand, I'm a chess player, and when you play chess, you just kind of, you know.
Take every advantage.
Oh my God, devote!
I did it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I did it.
All right. Okay.
I'm being a good chess player.
All right. So, Mala, and do you expect whoever gets eliminated to not know how you voted this time? Are you expecting anonymity? Is that what you're hoping for? Right.
Can you? Moment? I mean, not really, but like, I mean, if you could try, like, I would be very impressed if you could find a way of making this not look like I'm a jerk.
Okay, he's a jerk. Ninetales, you're gone. So, Ninetales, look, I gotta say, Ninetales is an amazing sport. Keeps coming back, right? She has determined to be stream queen one of these days, right? Come hell or high water, she's going to.
Is it too late?
No, it is too late. There's no takesy backseat.
My mind. I kind
of. God, what is this indecision? Like, come on. You are a father. You are the man of the household. Like, stand firm. Like, what is this?
How you play chess?
Yeah, can I take it back? Can I take it back, guys?
Okay, fine. I can't take it back. Right. All right. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay.
It's hurting me more than I thought it would.
All right. Okay. Ninetales. Last words to the audience, right? Tell them how Matt Latin broke your heart. She's muted. Okay. Great words. Great words to us all. Words to live by.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not muted.
Make me feel bad.
No, I'm devastated. I spend all my waking hours wondering how the hell I'm going to win Primetime Royale. And since all of you are irrational fucks who don't vote for anything to do with intelligence or good performance, I'm just screwed. I'm never going to win. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, I have a super fun time doing this. And what's funny is, like, every time these topics surprise me, that I get more invested and other people have more diverse opinions than I would expect from these topics. So, I honestly didn't think we'd even disagree at all on the child spanking thing, but we found something. So good for us. We're good interlocutors, I guess, or good at finding conflict where there is none. So yeah, my name is Ninetales Cosmic Fox. I stream to Twitch now, twitch.tv/Ninetales Cosmic Fox. That's the word 9, Tails Cosmic Fox. My Twitter is M9 Scarlet, so that's the letter M, the number 9, and Scarlet with 2 T's. I'm kind of switch it up on you there. And yeah, I'm gonna be streaming more and more. Gonna be doing more interesting stuff once I get everything put together. I know Prime's looking forward to when I start making my synthesizer, and I have a list of materials that I'm currently getting through buying for that. So then after that, I make the syllabus, and there we go. So have a good night, everyone.
Good one. Thank you. All right.
To be fair, finding conflict with there is known as like the name of the book that all leftists have to read before they get on the internet.
What's that? Sorry, what's the name of that book?
With finding conflict where there is none.
I
was wondering why.
No, it's good. That was a good one. Thank you. Okay.
So fucking delayed.
Oh man, that actually works. That's so perfect. Okay. Oh man, fuck my life. It's really good. Okay. All right. So we are going to the final round. Just so you know, right? Is among these individuals, right? These individuals. One of these people. One of these well, men, because you got rid of all the women. One of these individuals.
Hell yeah!
Will take the title of Stream Queen, right? It's all up for grabs, right? Kill was the initial favorite, but as you've seen, you hate him. So we'll see.
Horrible now.
I didn't vote. I should have taken out Ninetales. What have I done?
Stand resolute. This is not alpha moves, man. Like, come on, man. Just do it better.
I mean, like, I don't know. All right, that's fine.
Okay, all right.
I'm tough. I can do this.
Okay.
Me and you, 3 other competitors, and we're gonna.
Okay, this is his attempt at sounding manly. All right, so let's go to the final topic, right? Remember, the winner here is the champion, right? Should ISPs, and not just social media platforms, purge misinformed or hateful content from their services? 15 minutes up to the clock. Go at it.
I mean, if it's like beneficial for those services, if they're like so inclined to make profit, which it seems to be the case, that those that like purge that content from their website tends to lower that amount of content on their website, assumed by like everyone knows the Reddit studies right now. So like it seems to be in their interest to do so. They're private companies, they have like a fiduciary responsibility. So if they're profit making entities, then sure, probably. If we're talking about what that means for the implications of the end user, that means like depending on your perspective, it's going to mean that you have like a better what's the word, like a platform to be around, which is like makes a more enjoyable end user experience. But for some users, it means that they're going to have to like watch what they say and do, and that sometimes that restriction can be concerning, especially for people with like spicier political opinions or even political opinions at all, as we've seen with how YouTube used to literally just demonetize LGBT plus content.
They still do. They still will. I can tell you, if you say trans, to talk about trans issues, they will fucking demonetize you.
Okay, I thought they changed that, but I could be, yeah, like looks like I was wrong. But yeah, the fact that like this has like other implications for people in the political space. So like, yes, I'm just gonna say yes from a fiduciary responsibility perspective. But like, and for me as an end user, you know, I don't usually get in trouble for these things, and I say some pretty spicy stuff. So I feel like the line's gonna be pretty far. Like I'm a pretty edgy individual, and I haven't gotten in trouble yet. So
I think individual ISPs should do that like on their own, because the fact of the matter is, if it's just purely economics based, the best thing for them to do would be to like just let all the crazy stuff be on their pages.
Oh, this is about ISPs?
Yeah, I said
ISPs.
Yeah, fuck no then. Holy shit.
Right,
yeah, so I thought this was like social media platforms. ISPs in general. Fuck no.
Thanks for wasting 2 of our minutes, 2 of our precious minutes. All right, well,
nobody was talking.
Look. All right. So I think what needs to happen here is there needs to be some sort of like independent system put together to decide what kind of content is okay, what kind of content is not okay. That being said, there's things like the Tor browser that just lets you look up whatever you want. And I guess your ISP might be able to do something about that, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this isn't like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you start getting into issues of like ISPs doing stuff like this, you start running into like weird net neutrality stuff. Like the ISP isn't the person who like would do that. You could talk about like server administrators or like hosters or like and stuff like that. But when you get to the point where ISPs who are literally just the person who like gets the internet from one point to your house, they're basically like the water company of your internet. Into regulating like the content that is on the internet, that's really fucking shaky. And
that's actually happening.
Yeah, no, I mean, ISPs are utilities in that, I mean, they are legally considered to be utilities. And so setting a precedent where utilities can discriminate against some people on the basis of their beliefs is a very, very scary precedent. The doctrine in US law for a very long time has been utilities has faced certain regulations that prohibit them from discriminating. Furthermore, making it so that ISPs make it so that you don't get internet if you have bad views sounds very scary and authoritarian. And I mean, should we deprive water to people on the basis of their views? We obviously shouldn't. There's no reason why ISPs should be regulated in different ways. I mean, it just seems absurd that you're going to have internet companies making these judgment calls about what takes are too spicy to happen.
Well, this isn't ISPs being regulated, though. This is literally ISPs independently making this decision. If ISPs are properly regulated, they wouldn't be able to do this. I think that's a very important distinction to make.
Okay, here's a really good example. Sorry, go on.
Oh, hold on. I wanted to give an example of where this can happen. If you look at the country of Portugal, ISPs can actually choose what content you get based on how much you're paying. So it'd be like the equivalent of paying for HBO Max, say, except you're doing it with your internet service provider and having access to things like news or whatever else. So like, obviously this is not a great thing. There needs to be some sort of independent regulatory body to decide this, not let the ISPs decide one way or the other what should be allowed and not allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the scariest thing would be like, because it'd be like any held view, right? Could you imagine if like I don't know the fucking companies that do this in the US, but could you imagine if like Viacom were like, hello sir, you have too many negative things about Viacom today, your internet access has been cut off for the rest of the month. Like, if that doesn't sound like the most dystopian shit, I don't know what does. ISPs are like service providers, so that scares the fuck out of me to give those people the power to cut off like a utility. Like, I think like the water one has been like a really good example. That doesn't mean like
if you have money, we just wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, I mean, what's the benefit?
Especially because the infrastructure that's needed to get there. Yeah.
What about if
literally what is
I'm trying to let you know. Okay, so what about in terms of content where they're actively calling for the deaths of individuals, right? There's no other social media platform or something to take them down, right? The only way you can get at them is through the ISPs, right? So
that's true.
Why?
Because like, so like Google,
for instance, ISIS, right?
You can be held criminal.
Yeah.
Well, no, because like Google searches and the various there's various other ways that this stuff is suppressed, generally speaking. Yeah. Again, there's like one search engine and one browser that is out there that literally fights against this, but everywhere else, this type of stuff is suppressed by Google searches. So like, you're not getting some sort of feedback loop from like, you know, moderate regular individuals feeding into like Crazy Town. This is folks who are already with one toe in Crazy Town going through the effort of actually trying to find these independent sites. Like, you can't find there's a Nazi newspaper called I think it's like Stormfront. You can't search for Stormfront on Google and get at it at all. Like, go ahead and try it. Like, right now, everybody's like watching this. Like, go ahead and give it a try.
Don't do that. The FBI, don't do that. The FBI.
People will assume that you're watching The Boys anyway. Don't worry, it's fine. But the point is, you're not going to get there. You have to find like your own special software to actually reach these pages. So I don't think it's necessary to give the ISPs this power. And they already have like some idea of what you're looking up. If you go to your cell phone provider and ask them like, hey, what web pages have I been visiting? They can actually identify that already. Like, it's all there.
Yeah,
so
and there's like,
not sufficient is what I'm saying.
So there's no content.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of better ways to regulate than like, so like, I'm not sure like how much everyone knows about how the internet works. And to be honest, as someone who works in IT and the networking field, I don't even know everything about how the internet works. But like in general, you have like Google and stuff like that, which allows people to search. You have like hosts and stuff. And like, if some guy wants to go set up like some server in his backyard and like give people the IP address to like remotely connect to it, and like, should like ISPs be able to like fight against that? Well, at that point, I think we're reaching so far in, and like for like such little mitigation, when we can attack things at like a web host level, or we can attack things at like a Google search type level, or like a platform level, rather than like going to like the ISP and saying, hey, like cut off these people's like internet.
So there is no content. It was never any content that you would think that ISPs, no matter how extreme that content is, and we can imagine some extreme content, can't we? Right? That you would say an ISP should step in. Nothing at all.
Well, it seems like they're caught in with other regulatory bodies. Like the police are already usually on these things that are like that bad. The FBI is pretty good at catching these people. Funnily enough, like the federal institutions, really good. And it seems like giving those companies the ability to do that would only be bad. Could only result in bad things because you already have those other things. Catching those worst things.
Pretty fucking obscure. Let's say like somebody wants to post like a server full of CP. Well, there's 100 other ways to get at that person than giving your internet company access to like shut off people's internet based on like what they're hosting or what they have.
Because your internet company can already see that, they could pass it on to the FBI, and the FBI can absolutely handle that shit.
I can get to it, yeah. And like, there's so many other ways to do it.
No, so what if, for instance, that they don't know, right? So what if it's this is being hidden, but they know there's an IP address, right? They don't know where. It doesn't necessarily lead to the person, right? In that case, would we block that IP address?
The ISP has the knowledge to say where this is.
No, I mean if it's hidden
if it's hidden, either the ISP knows and they can take action, or but at that point, if the ISP knows and can take action, they can pass that resource on to the FBI, and the FBI can just take action. There's no reason why to have the middleman take action there instead of the federal. People.
Like we live in a country where it's like this hidden thing. Like we're at levels of like, what if the aliens came down from space and like blasted people's minds out and like hid this shit so that the government couldn't see it? Like we're this far removed from like the actual problems that like plague the internet.
I guess we could make the argument in other countries, right? Like there's so we have a pretty robust system for dealing with things that are like, really bad. So like the question is, like, let's say ISPs were doing this overseas, is this a good or a bad thing? And like I feel like any scenario where this comes up, we're usually rating it as a bad thing. Like I feel like in China, for example, there's a lot of suppression, and I think like there's tentacles in the ISPs over there. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure this is what I've read previously, and we all agree that we don't want that. We don't like that, right? So I guess like the question is like, what could possibly exist that is so bad that we want ISPs to automatically stop it and not like use the FBI or any other agency to like try to catch those who are, because like the question is like, if ISPs ban this content altogether, would that help or hurt our capacity to apprehend folks who are doing actually harmful things? Like, is that like, I mean, couldn't the ISP just say this content's not allowed and then report it to the agency anyway? Like I don't see the.
Yeah, I think like most of the stuff that we're talking about at this point is like illegal stuff. And anything else is like can be dealt with at like a platform level, or like I said, like at a web host level, even like a server host level.
I mean, like everybody's gotten like that email from Twitch saying like, oh yeah, you violated DMCA, blah 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 blah. Like our system is so good at finding things now, like the technology, etc., that like I can't think of a scenario. Like I'm really trying here. Like I really want to come up with like one exception to this like idea. Where ISP should just not be involved, and I literally can't. Yeah, I hate to say it, but
okay. Then
I mean,
go ahead, Omni. Omni.
It seems like we all kind of yeah,
we all agree. We need to find.
Seems like we kind of. I can throw out like a view related to ISP that's like only a hair's breadth over from this current topic. Is I think that internet should be treated as a utility, and I think that the way we should do utility policy is via reverse price auctioning. So we make it so that we offer we offer public utilities. In order for a utility to be able to run the internet, they have to A, provide universal access, and B, we auction it out to the utility who provides the service at the lowest cost. and so they can't overcharge because then someone else will come along and offer a lower price and then get the utility.
I mean, yeah. So that doesn't sound awful.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But sounded okay.
I'm not sure if that addresses any of the issues we have with access to like internet or utilities these days. But
look,
I mean,
in my opinion, the market is like actually the ISPs, like internet service providing, is like one of the worst things to have on the market because of the incredibly high cost of entry. Right? I would much rather it just be like the lines just be public. I don't see why like this is actually one of those instances where it seems like the government could just do a severely better job at providing internet to the people. Just for, and considering it's like such a well-known and used utility, you'd be way better off. There's no reason to like slow people's internet down because they can't afford it for some reason. I don't know why you'd want to slow down your infrastructure for your country like that. So like, fuck it, dude. I'm like, my position is just have the government build the lines that they need to, make sure everything's fiber optic so you can get the US onto the same level as Korea, and then fuck it, dude. Just give people internet. There's no reason not to.
I'm sorry. No, like you're saying get the US on the level of Korea. Like, what about getting Australia on the level of the United States? I know what kind of internet you guys have. Like, what are you talking about? Or like anywhere else.
I agree, and we had the option to be as good as Korea, but the Liberal government fucked it up, okay? It's not my fault. I never voted Liberal.
Okay, so then in that case, I'm curious actually if New Zealand has terrible internet, like I'm actually very curious about that now. I should ask the New Zealander. But okay.
Have you seen the Lord of the Rings? They clearly don't use Facebook there. Okay.
Fair enough. We are done. Okay, so we're going to go into our last round of voting, right? And this will be voting for the winner. Okay, the champion will be named right this second. You have the power to do so. All right. So I'm going to give these individuals 30 seconds each to make their final case to the audience why they should be the winner and not kill. All right, so
I let Keo know exactly what he could do to prove that he actually wanted this. If he shaved off his beard, I would actually believe that he is here to win and not just here for the memes.
That's literally my branding. Literally my branding. I can't do it. I'm sorry, buddy.
My fro, I gave away my beard, I gave away my mustache. I got a little tuft of hair here that I can't quite get at yet, that I'm going to after we're done here. I'm just saying, like, maybe you can see what it's like to be smooth faced for a little bit. Maybe you're,
Look, I mean, my pitch would be, I think I've been the contrarian throughout this conversation. Vote for the contrarian, help spice up the debate rather than just the conformist position that like everyone else thinks. I
mean, you're citing an awful lot of... I don't interrupt your take. Go ahead. Do your pitch. You interrupted my pitch, but it's fine. You can go ahead with your pitch.
I also think that I'm just very cool.
Okay, great. Well, Omni thinks he's cool, so all right. Well, that's first step to being cool is to convincing yourself that you are cool, I guess. But Matt Latin, did you have anything else you wanted to say? Matt Latin.
Hey guys, please, I love all of you. I hope to be Stream Queen again. Just to get my vengeance for what Keo did to me last time, but also because I love all of you and I want to give you all the content I can. I really appreciate it. Yeah. No need to oversell. That's what I got.
Top Dolphin. This is your first time on the Royale and all the way to the end. Top Dolphin.
Yeah, we made it here somehow.
Somehow. So Top Dolphin, why should you be Stream Queen?
Why should I be the Stream Queen? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. The performance on that last topic was abysmal until I spoke up. The moment I mentioned water lines, everyone bowed down and agreed with me, okay? We obviously, if we are going based on debate performance, it was obviously me who was superior in that last topic, and that's why I should be Stream Queen. But realistically, I'm just glad to have a run, and chat, regardless of whether you vote for me or not, you guys should vote and exercise your right to vote, or whether you can't cry about who gets Stream Queen because you just endorsed it.
Exactly. That's how it works. Hey.
Hashtag mandatory voting.
Right. Look, democracy is not a spectator sport, so you got to get in there, right? One way or the other. Your not vote means a vote as well. Okay. So, Kyo-san, why should people give you the title back?
I mean, I don't know why I'm bothering to make my case here. Everyone here already knows I'm the best. It's just how it is. I don't make prescriptive statements. I'm not going to tell people why they should vote for me. They will vote me because I'm the best. I'm making descriptive statements about the nature of the world. And try as they might, my competitors fight against eternity, right? They punch against fate, and it's a battle that you lose. I am sorry, sirs. You have lost. Good day!
Oh,
It's pretty impassioned.
Right. Okay.
I'll give it that.
Here it is.
I feel like that was a much higher energy version of that. Well, I think I'm cool.
I agree with that. Actually.
Fair enough. All right, I'll give you that.
Show it and not say it, right? That's like rule number 1, right?
Yeah, I guess. All right, so here we go. So remember, there'll be 5 minutes left on the clock, right? And this is the moment where people complain and bitch and whine the most, okay? Now, it's all up to you. Because remember, I literally don't give a shit if your vote comes afterwards, all right? So I'm going to refresh after that 5 minutes are up, right? And whoever is the winner is the motherfucking winner. So vote for the champion. Vote right this second. Vote for the champion. 5 minutes on the clock. Vote right now. All right. Here we go. 5 minutes on the clock. If you are here and again, this is your first time finding this channel, hit that follow button, hit the notification bell so you know I'm going live. And also after this, right, so we'll vote, we'll crown a champion, but after this we'll still have content. We're going to go into our open walk on panel where audience members like you, yes, you sitting at home, you may be involved, right? We'd love to have you. So stick around. The content does not end when we crown a champion. All right. So Stream Queen is up for grabs. 4.5 minutes left on the clock. Please vote right this second. Do not wait. All right. So you guys can talk about whatever.
Cool. So
Don't wait.
Cool on me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to laugh when you said it. It was just the way you said it. I couldn't help myself. I think you're.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not a. Yeah, no, it was largely a joke.
Although I don't know if citing statistics is a cool thing necessarily, but I wish it was. Like genuinely speaking, it would be a better world if everybody thought it was really awesome to do the research and pull things up. I don't agree with all the research you pulled up though. Like, there's a few things I feel like you neglected, but I'll give it a pass. We're just meeting. I don't want to, dig into you too hard here.
Yeah, I think you also said things that were interesting.
Oh my god! Someone say something interesting now to keep my audience.
Too cool for school over here.
I'm sorry, chat.
You're like, I
2 weeks ago.
Interesting thing.
I am inevitable. Okay.
Okay. All right. Whatever.
Mixed
okay, right. So when the votes come in, you need to start to snap like the movie, and then do it, and then be like, "What happened?" Right? Like we gotta.
Mixed Vivian Wolf has her claws out for you, Kyo. She wants you gone. She wants to destroy you. What do you say to that, Kyo-san?
Even if I don't win today, my ego will still be absolutely inflated, and there's nothing you can do about it. Okay. You see, I have this powerful ability in my head where I pretend things just don't happen that are bad, and it's sick.
I mean, is that healthy though?
I
feel like
sure.
you talk to a therapist.
Repressing back. I think you need to go to a therapist and work that out. Actually,
I mean, I can.
People talk shit on bottling up your emotions, but it works really well, eh?
I can't. How do you argue with that?
Hey, what was that sponsorship charity stream you're doing soon about balling up your emotions? Right? Is that what that was about, Kyo-san?
It was so it's for Lifeline, which is a fantastic Australian charity. even if you have the time and a couple of bucks, throw them your money. They're one of the best. I can't find anything that's comparable. I was trying to find like a worldwide charity that does something similar to what they do, but I couldn't find one. They've been operating for a very long time. They're a fantastic charity. They work really well.
What do they do?
My family members over to call them in. So it's called, the lifeline is just a number, and you call and you can just talk to someone. Like if you're not feeling so great, if you're not like, or if it's like a really bad like episode that you just need to talk to someone. They're fantastic. I love the work they do. They've been operating in Australia for a very long time. Lifeline also runs some of the sickest op shops. So if you're looking for some fresh threads and you're in Australia, I don't need to tell you this, but Lifeline's got some sick bins, got some good deals. I got a fucking sick, I'd have to go and find it, but I've actually got a Giorgio Armani like jacket that fits me like nearly perfectly that I got at a Lifeline op shop. So you find some sick deals there as well if you're into it. But I love Lifeline. They're a fantastic charity. If you have the time, please donate to them or check them out. Or if you're Australian, just give them a call if you're not feeling so great,
Yeah. All about bottling up the emotions, right?
In terms of plugging charities, I think that people should give to the Malaria Consortium. It can say it will on average save a life for about $2,500 donated. So that seems good. And like people shouldn't die of malaria, and we can make people not die of malaria at relatively low costs to ourselves. So,
oh hell yeah, dude!
Let's do it.
Based and efficient charity pilled.
Okay.
Malaria is one of the things we can like literally just solve. Like malaria is like literally one of the issues we can just solve as a society, and we're just not putting the money towards it. It's incredibly cheap and incredibly effective.
Yeah, we
should. Charities over here. PrimeCayes needs a few subs and donos, keep the lights on. Charity would be great, and in this case,
absolutely.
And you get content in return.
Absolutely agree. Hey, this content doesn't appear automatically or magically on your screen. So help a brother out. All right, now it's the moment. It's that time, right? Whether you voted or didn't, that's your fault, not my problem. And wow. Okay. All right. We had a lot of votes coming in. We had a lot of votes coming in. All right.
Here, hold my hand, Omni. Hold my hand.
Okay. So Top Dolphin, thank you for participating. You got 8 times as much votes as you did previously. So things are going well. All right. All right. Next, Killson. Oh, I guess you're gonna have something else to block out. Because
I'm like entirely convinced that this is just who has watched wrestling before? Who here has like watched like a lot of wrestling? Like I'm not talking like I watched WrestleMania once. I've like watched a lot of wrestling. I've become the Roman Reigns of the PrimeCayes community. I'm literally just winning too much that people boo me now. That I go over too often. That I'm too good. That people just like hate me, that I'm just like the anti, that people boo me on my way out because I'm too good. I am like entirely convinced that I cannot win popularity contests anymore.
Well, if you don't arrogantly declare that you're going to win a popularity contest, I feel like that helps.
What do you mean arrogant? What's arrogant about telling people I'm inevitable?
Well, when you're not inevitable.
There's no arrogance. It just wasn't for this policy, right? Like,
can you do the hand thing for me? Like, can you snap and like not have it work?
There we go. You happy? You got your clip? We good?
Yeah, I'm happy. Thank you. That's all I needed. Man, like people are so slow.
Okie doke. All right. Moving on. So the winner, right? The winner. It's Omni. Omni, you are the winner. You are number 1. This is the first time a non-progressive has won. Omni, you have taken this competition by storm, right? Hey, Well, what can I say? You have done it.
Thanks.
Good work, right? And fucking Mad Latin shaved his head for all this. But hey. Thank you so much. Omni, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this for you. 1 second. Hold on. What? Hold on. 1 second. 1 second. Hold on. Oh my god, my computer's so slow. There we go. All right, Omni. I want you to take a bow, right? I want you to give the audience a victory speech.
Wait, okay. So a few things. One, people should donate to effective charities. Do it. There are charities that can save a life for like $2,500. And so we should do it. Next, contrary to the assertions of the chat, there are a lot of issues that I'm pretty far left on. Like, I think that we should like quintuple foreign aid. We should give way more money for foreign aid. I'm not an anarchist. I'm kind of a left libertarian. I don't know. I mean, I have some wacky pro free market takes. Third, I have a YouTube channel called Deity Defeater. I think you should check it out. I talk mostly about religion and philosophy, not much about politics there. But yeah. Yeah, that's the pitch.
All right, thanks so much. Look, what you're looking at here is that's the face of a champion, right? Who has conquered all the others. All have fallen at his feet. So thank you, Omni, for showing up and playing hard. All right. That man deserves it. Okay, so I did refresh afterwards, and guess what? Mad Latin would have won if you motherfuckers would have gotten your votes in on time. That's how it works all the time. You guys wait and then you're heartbroken. When does it matter? When I refresh, not when you refresh. So within the span of 5 minutes, we're all just sitting around dicking around here. You could have put the crown once again on Mad Latin's face or head. I don't know, but you didn't. But you didn't, and that's your fault.
Wait, sorry. I have another shout out that I told my friend that I would do if I won. He told me to plug his Discord. If people DM me, I'll like send a link to the Discord.
You just put the link in the Discord of my chat. Just do that. Okay. All right. So let me put his name up here, right where it belongs, right? Because we got a winner here. And everyone else who's complaining in chat, well, I guess you should have voted earlier. I don't know what to tell you. All right. So it is what it is. All right. So let's get rid of that last person who was the winner. I don't even remember who that was, but that the new champion, the new stream queen, Omni. For the rest of you non-winners, right? You can take this opportunity to say anything else you want. Last words to the community.
So I do actually teach chess classes. So if you guys are interested in learning chess from me, you can go to hypechess.com. I will plug it in Twitch chat. Also check me out on Twitch. Just click on my name in chat and you can follow me. I do this, I do chess, I do video games. Yeah, that's what I got. I'm gonna let other people have their chance.
Okay, Top Dolphin.
Hey everybody, I've been around for a little bit now, not too long, but check me out, twitch.tv/TopDolphin. I do gaming stuff, I comment on politics and philosophy stuff. I've been trying to do more interviews lately because that's more fun, talking to people about things they're passionate about. If anybody knows a marine biologist, DM me because I want to talk to a marine biologist so bad. But yeah, thanks for having me, I appreciate it. Twitch.tv/TopDolphin.
Okay. All right, next, last, and least, frankly, Josan, a non-champion. Do you have any words, right?
First of all, to the community who feels like they need to vote against me, fuck you, all right? To the real non-antis out there, I'm here for you, my brothers, sisters, and NBs. I love you. Those of you in my community and further beyond that community that show their support for me, I support you back. I appreciate you, right? The antis eat my ugly, bumpy, hairy asshole. Okay. If you enjoyed me on these panels, I hope you do have fun though. Disliking me, that's half the fun of coming on here and acting rambunctious. With that being said, if you do want to find me, if you want to come to my stream where it's like a little bit chill most of the time, where we just like hang out and read papers and try and learn and improve our discussions on empirics, politics, and philosophy, you can find me CurseINAU on Twitch, CurseINAU on YouTube, and CurseINAU on Twitter. I'm not great at Twitter, so you can just see me there making like non-interesting statements, but Twitch is the place to be. That's my fun place. Okay, so thank you to everyone else here for having good content, especially that first round. First round was fun as fuck. I love yelling at people, right? But shout out to fucking Mad Lad for being a fucking Mad Lad and shaved his head.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
So I hope everyone else has a pretty good night.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much. And do we get... Okay. All right. So what happens now is that we are going to roll into our open walk-on panel, right? So we got content coming your way. If any of these individuals wants to join us, that would be amazing. We'd love to have them, especially the Stream Queen, right? I'm sure more people would love to hear your opinions. Well, one or the other, thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending your time, your energy, and your passion with my audience. I know they appreciate just as much that. And Omni, you gotta, like, the thing you're doing with the your cord, we can hear all that, right? When you're pulling on that, we can all hear that noise. Your mic is on the thing, isn't it? Right? And so this whole entire time, we can hear you doing that. Just please, no, just like, all right, thank you. Anyway, have a good one. Bye.